Hello, everybody. What is going on, guys and girls and creatures? We got another Friday night live stream tonight. Jeremy, very nice guy. BMR, Brassman Reptiles, and very knowledgeable dude. And I look forward to being able to talk to him and pick his brain during this live stream. So we'll get him in here and we'll get the show started.
What's
yo,
up?
Yo.
How's it going,
Oh man. Just trying to get prepared. trying to get ready for a rock and roll. So much food on my plate. We've been just preparing. We got this trip to Arlington and getting all those preparations ready is fun, as well as we're trying to get the yard ready for above ground pool. Because me and my wife are tired of these 30-inch tall pools. We got a 52-inch tall one. It's like a fat guy in a shot glass. So I need to step it up.
Oh man, that's funny.
What's going on, Megan? But yeah. I can't wait for this 3D printer thing going, because I got an order of 300. There's 3 different sizes. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but it's a 2-part system. It's a ring that you silicone to your tub, and then not a ring, a bracket, and then a ring locks in. So, I have a lot of 6-quart tubs. I got 41-quart tubs. I want fancy water bowls and be able to do the disposable swap.
Yep.
So I got an idea. I talked to my buddy, and we made it happen. So I have 3 options. There's a 4-ounce option, 8-ounce option, and 16-ounce option.
Hell yeah, dude. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, and before I even went public about it, one of the testers ordered 300, 100 of each. And then he said, "Oh, well, I need at least 100 to start my collection." So we had another 100 of the big ones, which take forever. They take about 6 hours to print.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So it's madness. I'm 24
crazy.
hours a day just babysitting these printers.
That's insane.
Hopefully I get a couple more big orders, and I could pay off the patent pending application. Well, I paid that. I want to get my money back now,
Right.
And then I'll need the money for the actual patent, because I think I'm going to ride with it. If
hell yeah,
if I get a patent on it, anybody has that idea, and they do it, it could work out for me.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That means everybody here just heard it. If you when Chino gets this patent, go out and do it so he can sue you and make money.
100. Make sure you do it better than me, so I can just take a percentage, and then you just keep doing it. Like that's the goal, right? You hope that like Exoterra or Zilla or one of these companies come up with something, that is the same idea, because my patent's on the functionality. So my patent is on a universal device that can be used that holds deli cups.
Right.
So I pretty much got that on lockdown. So you never know what's going to happen in the years to come.
That's true.
What motivated me about it is, have you ever used the FB8?
Yes.
I can't stand that tub. I can't. I maybe I'm biased because I have V18s, and I see how functional V18s is with the proper size water bowl.
Yeah.
But that water bowl, that 8-ounce water bowl, and then how it has to go out on an angle so they can stack. V18, you can hold a snake in there 800, 900 grams before it's like, okay, now it's time to move out.
Right.
But if you have FB8s, you're not taking pictures of your 600 gram snakes in them, because it looks fucking horrible,
Oh shit.
Oh, it's so depressing, because I went with 30 and 30. I built 2 30 racks, 3 wide, 10 high. And one of them is V18s and one of them is FB8s. And
which one do you fill up first? I think we can all guess.
Oh, it's so hurtful. I'm like, and V18s are expensive. I wish that Freedom Breeder would make the FB8 without a water bowl.
Yeah.
Because, just because I doubt they're going to have a 4. Well, they may have a 4-ounce and an 8-ounce option. And if they have a 4-ounce option, I may, even though I make this product, I probably will buy them just because, there's a lot of variables. I like the holes, the ventilation on those tubs.
Yeah.
I like how clear they are. The V18s are a little bit more opaque.
Mm-hmm.
But I think in a smash match, if I smashed a V18 and a FB8 together, I think the V18 is winning that battle.
Yeah. Yeah, I would lean on the side of agreeing with that. Yeah.
Ready to spill something on me? I didn't even start drinking yet, and I already spilled shit on me. So, Brass Man Reptiles.
Yes, sir.
So you're obviously a musician.
I am. Yes.
I don't know it, so now this is me. Just I've never gone down that road about you.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious about it because I am musical. What's going on, Atomic? I'm assuming that it's something brass.
Yes, sir. It's the trumpet.
Oh man. Good old trumpet.
Good old trumpet, man. I've been playing trumpet for 17 years now.
You played it in middle school or elementary school?
I started in middle school, right in 6th grade, and pursued it. It's I went to college for it. I went to Berklee College of Music in Boston, Massachusetts.
Nice.
And pursued it from there. And work now as an educator, and I tour and do sessions. I'm actually in my makeshift home studio. I've got my one piano over here, another piano over here. There's a whole line of microphones right next to me.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah, man. So that's what I do. My gig right now, I have a residency, a teaching residency, oddly enough, at my old high school. High School of Science and Technology in Springfield, Mass. So I teach there once a week. And then I work as a freelance musician. If people want horns on their album, if people want horns for a live show, I travel all over the country for that. I've gotten some really cool opportunities. I've written music for Facebook, the Facebook Sound Collection. I've got some music on there. I've worked with Grammy-nominated producers. I've worked with finalists from NBC's The Voice.
Nice. Who? That's my guilty pleasure.
Oh,
Voice,
really?
By the way.
So,
yeah.
I did some work with some live work with Noah Liss, and I also did most of the horns for Michelle Brooks Thompson, who was a finalist on season 3. So really early on. Yeah, and she actually just hit me up today. She's working on some new music and needs some horns done for that. So
yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
that's
dude.
Awesome. So you're living like multiple dreams, like even 3.
Yeah.
Like going back to your own high school and teaching there is fucking crazy. That's awesome.
It really is. It's very cool. The band director there, Gary Bernice, was my band director when I was a student there, and I literally owe that man my life, because when I was in high school, I definitely went through a weird rough patch with depression and stuff, and I was in a dark place for a while, and he was that my confidant when I was in high school. I could go to him.
Oh, that's great.
He
was the guy.
What's up, dude, and whatever. Yeah, so I owe him my freaking life, man. So any chance I can to give back to the school, I do it. And when I came back from college, he was like, hey man, I know you're around. If you have time, like, I'd love to have you come in and work with the kids and blah blah blah. And I've been doing that for the last few years now, and I love it, dude.
But don't you live in New Hampshire?
I do. So I was pre-COVID, I was going back and forth. I was actually driving once a week down to Western Mass, which is maybe 2 hours away. So it's not too bad. No. It also allowed me to see my folks. So I was able to, see my folks once a week or whatever, so it was cool. And then with COVID, I'm doing it online over Zoom. So
Nice.
still able to do it. Thank God.
In your studio?
Yeah, in the studio room, man. I'll be, I turn my laptop over. There's one of my pianos right there. And
oh, nice.
yeah, I have the whole production set up here. So I have my own band as well, and I do all my demos for our records in this room and all that stuff.
Oh, it's incredible.
Yeah, man.
When I was a kid, well, I call myself a kid because I was like 18, 19 years old, and I wanted to be a rapper. My brother was signed with So Def and was a DJ for them. And then a couple of my friends that are like straight up gangsters. These guys were like no joke. One of the craziest crews I hung out with in my life. And they all were aspired rappers. And I literally made my closet into a recording booth. Yes. And I built a studio computer, and I had my man, I forgot. Now I can't even remember it. I forgot what brand. It was a Karma. It was my keyboard. It was like one of those like purple metallic reddish Chord Karma. I had a Chord Karma keyboard.
Okay, yeah. I remember those.
Because I was making beats with the MPC, and it was cool until I realized that I don't know, I wasn't a fucking gangster rapper, so my career didn't work out that well. The guys I hung out with were fucking gangster.
Yeah. Hey man, it's not for everybody, man.
Yeah, I mean, I can hang with the best of them, but and I did, but. They're trying to put cornrows on my half Asian ass, and I mean, it just got a little weird. Yeah, I'm like, we went to like his girl's house, and we're like in the middle of the project, and he's like, "Dude, let my girl give you cornrows." I'm like, "It's gonna look horrible," and he didn't believe me.
Oh man.
So he did it, and I looked like I just got off a fucking cruise, with the fucking. When you see like everyone in their family have cornrows from a cruise, I was like, "Yep, we'll be taking these things out."
Oh man, that's amazing.
But I still play. I don't play as much as I used to. I actually I grew up playing the piano.
Okay.
So behind the banner is my baby grand piano with 4 3D printers on top of it printing.
Dude.
So I have a baby grand piano that my mother taught me how to play with, and my mother had a stroke when I was like 10 days old, and she only had one functioning hand. So she taught me as well as she could with one hand until I took lessons with this little Sicilian woman that used to beat me with a ruler. And
the old school way.
Oh yeah. Oh, she was rough, It was like when you practice, your fingers are so sore because she was so into, just practicing consistency. So the book of all the octaves and all the different things, and going back and forth. And okay, you're doing it 4 times this time, and then if I don't do it perfect, whack, start all over again.
Yeah. Was she on you about hand position, having to have your fingers a certain way? Oh yeah, dude.
Oh, she would grab you if my hand wasn't in the right position.
Yeah,
because she wasn't into the style where you're gliding front and back, and that was the way my mother taught me. She's like world known pianist from Italy,
Yeah.
And every time I slid down, she would grab my wrist and go up and be like, "No, leave it up," like with a really strong Italian accent,
Yeah.
And it was great. I did lessons for her until I became a punk teenager, and then I just played piano to impress people's, girls' parents.
There you go.
Pop in and
it's like he plays piano. He must be a good guy. No douchebag plays piano.
Or it's like, oh, he's Asian, he must play an instrument.
I wasn't gonna say that one. I
can say it. It's true, man.
Oh man,
our family, like the Philippines, like the De Leons, it's all like you have to play an instrument and you have to do some sort of self-defense. So whether it's martial arts or boxing, I chose to box.
Okay.
And I mean, when I was a kid and I did something bad, I would have to play on the piano for an hour, and then I would have to
Mhm.
punch the heavy bag that was hanging from our living room,
Oh,
50-pound heavy
Yeah.
bag. And then I'd have to read a book, which I would just pass out, and then do
Jeez.
it all over again the next day from getting in trouble.
Oh man. I have a similar story. So with trumpet, you're typically supposed to hold the instrument straight, very much straight like this. And you keep your fingers kind of arched. Imagine like you're holding a tennis ball or something, and you just kind of put your fingers right over like that. I hated that, like absolutely hated that. And I would actually play like this, and I would slant my horn, and then I wouldn't keep my fingers curved like that. I would flatten them out a little bit because it was more
Yeah.
comfortable. And we had this guest instructor come in, and while I was in the middle of playing, this is during like band class in high school, this dude grabs the bell of my trumpet and turns my trumpet straight.
Like
And
mid-song.
I gave him this fucking look of like, touch my horn again and watch what I do to you. So he lets go of my horn, and I immediately go back to this, and he tries to do it again, and I took the horn off my lips, and I was like, unless I'm making an actual mistake, do not touch my horn again if you value your career. I was like so done. I was like, dude, I have my own horn that I paid for with my own damn money because I know I don't suck. So I'm going to need you to back off for a second. I'm going to need you to, realize that holding it like this is not the end of the world. I'm like, Jesus, I hated that. I appreciate proper technique, but understanding like bad habits, can create problems in the long run, but also like, damn, man, just back off, bro. I know I'm playing my damn
Yeah.
part, like sheesh.
Well, I think what it is like when you're younger, it's not. It's when you're older, it turns into an art, right? When you're
Yeah.
younger, it's like straight up class.
Yeah, you have to
and
learn the fundamentals and go through all
yeah,
those steps and all. I totally get that. Totally. But yeah, I mean, I was like, come on, man, what are we doing here? But
how old were
yeah,
you?
I was probably 15, and I'd already been playing for like 4 or 5-ish years. So, so I was like, I was doing all right,
Yeah,
so I was, I'm like, I'm, a sophomore crushing it in the advanced ensemble in the high school because I was already playing from middle school through. So like I already had a lot of the fundamental chops built up from that,
yeah.
so I was like, hey man, chill. I wish I remembered the dude's name because, like, man, I'd love to send him every fucking music video I ever did holding my trumpet off to the side like that and be like, look, man, I'm playing in LA, I'm playing in Florida, I'm playing here, I'm playing there. Go shut up, dude. Sit back in the fucking
Yeah.
orchestra and shut your damn mouth.
Yeah, and you're teaching at that building.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, look, dude. Oh
So
man.
let's talk snakes, man.
Yeah, dude. Let's do it.
So the odds gods they fought me today.
Oh man,
They
what
they
happened?
fought me big time, which is fine and this is like the whole angle that I like to show, like younger people getting it, not younger, but people that are new in the hobby.
Yeah.
Because as you know, everyone goes, well, I want to buy. Well, why do you want to buy this snake? Oh, well, I want to buy it because I'm going to breed it to this, and if 50% are going to be this, and everything's perfect, right?
Yeah, I did my
And
Punnett square, and I understand.
yeah, the Punnett square does not lie. I'm like,
Yeah.
it doesn't lie of what you can produce, but it
Right,
does
that's
lie
true.
about percentages. The percentages can be total bullshit,
Yeah.
and it goes both directions.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
last year, I had 4 het pied possible het albino clutches.
Mm-hmm.
because of my male is a pied het albino.
Mm-hmm.
And I did good with sex odds, but not
Mm.
so much pieds wise. Um,
Okay.
so then now it's clutch 2, pied het albino to a het albino that I bought. I bought this snake in like 2019, proven breeder.
Mm-hmm.
And I got it early. It was like January, so
Yeah.
it was already big. I was like, oh, it's big. Get a few meals in, let her acclimate, pair her up.
Yep.
She didn't even produce any follicles. The move fucked her up. She didn't want to breed that year. She's like, I'm taking this year off.
Yeah. Yep.
The following year, she produces follicles. I felt them. I'm waiting. They're gone. So this year, I finally get a clutch.
Mm-hmm.
3 years in the making. And I'm like, awesome, 7 eggs. So I only hit one albino het pied last year.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a male, and I want females.
Yeah,
so
of course. Yeah.
I sold it, which I
Mhm.
still have in my rack. He hasn't picked it up yet. I sold it. One of the first snakes I sold last year. But that's the point. He'll get it soon. He's getting a store. He's opening a store soon. But
Okay.
so 7 eggs, 1 pips, and I'm already like, oh fuck, because I got it from someone that was legit, and it's a het pied. I mean, a het albino. But you never
Yeah.
know. People make mistakes. Shit happens.
Of course. Yeah.
Some people don't follow the same rules. Like if I buy a het, I won't sell it as a het unless I prove it out. Now it's a possible het in my eyes because I can't say 100% unless I prove it out. Right.
Right.
So 7 eggs, there's a pip, and I'm like, oh, there's a pip, not albino. I'm like, oh, great. Because now it's going is, what if it doesn't prove out? Even though it's proven and all that. But
yeah, but the thought pops into your head.
Hell yeah, man. The little demons like, oh, you got fucked on this snake. You've been feeding for 3 years, And I don't even remember who I bought it from.
Yeah.
So it's not even like I can track back. I'm like, remember that het albino you sold me? Well, it's not.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah.
So then the next egg we caught, I hit my albino. I'm like, hell yeah, proves out, mission accomplished, right?
Yeah.
Because it's all about proving it. I'm like, hopefully I get a bunch, right? So I got 5 more eggs, 5 more normals.
Oh
yeah.
Dang.
So I mean, if maybe that 8th egg, if she had that 8th egg, maybe that could have been with what it says, and I would have got 2. But
yeah.
So it's like, I'm like, oh, I guess 2020 is going to be a big year because I already sold my first clutch of 2020 was the pied het albino to black pewter, because for years I've been trying to produce a fucking black pastel het pied. I always get females. Like 3 seasons, I get females. I don't get the one male that I want. So this year I actually was reverse. I hit 1. I hit a black pewter that was male, and then the rest were all female, and all those are already sold, which is nice. And I'm like, fuck it. And everyone's always asking, hey, do you have any more het pieds available? I was like, yeah, well, looks like I got 6 more left.
Coming soon.
Coming soon. 6 more het pied. These ones at least are 66 possible het albino, so
there you go. Yep.
I mean, not that you can like really add price to that, because I it's hard to add value, especially to a possible het albino.
Yeah.
But it's
certainly
a
lot different than it certainly is a lot different than it was, 10 years ago, when something being even possible het for some of these like old school recessive traits was like, it still meant something.
Yeah. You're I mean, I understand people take the risk.
Yeah.
But me personally, I just, with the amount of animals I have, I only have 2 possible possible hets, possible double het clown hypo. And the only reason why I have them is because my first original largest investment in the ball python world was a super pastel Mojave double het orange ghost clown male. And then I bought 2 pastel double het clown hypo females. So by the time I got those females up to size, that male was already a picky eater or whatnot. And it was the first and only snake that I ever got stuck on African softers, which I thought was weird because I pretty much debunked that theory. I didn't have any snakes. I could feed a sulfur this week. I could feed a rat next week. I never had an issue.
Yeah.
So, you know, he's almost breeder size, 800 grams. They're almost breeder size. And then one day I get that fucking horrible smell. And, yeah, he flipped over and died.
Oh,
and,
man.
So I did breed him to a pastel that was a possible het clown that someone sold me. Oh, it's possible. So I got babies out of it. I ended up getting babies, two super pastel Mojaves that were female, and I held them back. I'm like, you know what? Since the expensive snake, because that was like the most expensive snake getting into the hobby. That was like year 2, and I dropped like $800 on a snake, and I was like, holy fuck, you know, like,
yeah.
I think I paid $800 for him. And then I want to say I paid $400 each. And this was in 2016. I want to say 2015. And that was like payments, you know, that was like every week, $50, like Friday. Okay. Transfer $50 type deal.
Yep.
And, you know, it's winter. I always use winter to my advantage. Paying off snakes.
Yeah. It's like, you can't ship it, dude. Don't worry. You know, I got you. Yeah.
You can't ship it. You're not gonna be able to ship till March. If I pay you $50 a week for 3 months, it'll be paid off. And you know, and 9 out of 10 people are cool. You know, you do get that one person that's like, "Oh no, if it's under $1,000, you have to pay within 30 days." And I'm like, "Fuck!" Like a $900 snake, you're gonna make the person pay within 30 fucking days. But people do that, you know.
Yeah.
But it's funny about the odds.
Oh, dude, the odds can be so freaking disappointing, man. I've certainly had my fair share. One of my favorite stories that Kevin told me when on just one random occasion I was just up visiting. We were talking about odds and genetics and stuff. He's like, "You want to know my worst, one of my worst clutches ever?" And I was like, "Yeah, tell me about your insane disappointment," you know. And he's like, "I bred champagne to normal, 9 eggs or whatever, and 9 normals." And I was like, "You didn't get a single champagne?" He's like, "Nope, not a one." And I was like, that really sucks. Like, that is the ultimate worst hand you could ever have, you know. And that was when like champagnes were like still brand new, like very new to the market. So like they're worth serious money. And nope, 9 eggs, champagne to normal, 9 normals. So take that. After hearing that, I was like, oh my God, that's ridiculous. And yeah, I mean, over the years, I mean, I've been breeding ball pythons for, I don't know, maybe 12 plus years. I've definitely had some clutches that have been like, really? That's what's coming out of those eggs? I remember putting some money in on I bought a pair of Poshet caramel albinos. I forgot who the hell I got them from, but I was like in love with caramel albinos, and I think they were still probably like $1,200 or $1,500 a piece. And I was like a kid, so I was like, "There's no way in hell I can do that." But I could get this pair of possible hets for like $300. So I was like, "Yeah, okay, we'll do it." Raised them up, breed them. First year, nothing, absolutely nothing, just all normals. And I was like, "Oh my gosh!" So I just sold them as normals because I was like, now we're talking about like 33% possible het. It's a normal. If you get lucky somewhere down the line, congratulations, it's a normal. Second year I breed them. She lays a great clutch, like 6 or 7 eggs, and I'm like, I'm gonna get one bright yellow head popping out of this egg. Again, all normals. And at this point, I already had like some other morphs, you know, so I was like, you know what? I don't think I really need to deal with this depression anymore. So I got rid of that clutch and those adults. I was like, let it be somebody else's headache. I don't know if they ever proved out for that person, but yeah, man, I was like, it was like year after year, constant sadness.
Yeah.
I was like, this isn't good at all.
My first clutch was definitely my worst clutch, I would say.
Yeah.
For multiple reasons. It was a banana to a pastel yellow belly.
Okay.
Um, so that was when bananas were really in demand. You're getting 250 a banana, easily.
Yeah.
Um, I get 7 eggs, and now this is my first clutch ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
my mentor, my first mentor is John from Snake Man's Exotics. He
Okay.
really he really put me under his wing big
Mhm.
time and really gave me the foundation into being a breeder.
Mhm.
So I cut the clutch and I'm looking and I'm like, oh, is that one banana? I like, what does a banana look like out of the egg? I didn't know. It's fucking new, you know.
Yeah.
And I sent him a picture. I'm like, dude, I didn't hit a banana. And he's like, nope. He goes, you hit the ultimately hard wads. I hit 0 bananas,
Wow.
3 pastel yellow bellies, and 4 normals. And
Ooh.
back then, that was before I even knew of a highway or a freeway. So, like pastel yellow belly was kind of one of those like
Yeah, it was one of
people
those.
like, oh, I was like, yeah, I don't see it, and I've
Yeah.
done that with
Yeah.
multiple
Yeah.
morphs over the years. Red
Yeah.
stripe being one of them.
Yep.
I don't see it. I don't see it. And then, holy shit, look at what people are making with it.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, that sucked. That really
Yeah.
sucked.
Yeah. No, it's definitely. I mean, you talk about paying your dues. Like those are the moments when you're like, okay, I think I've done all I need.
Yeah,
When you start getting clutches like that, man, like that's oof. And then you get. I mean, it's nice when you get to the total opposite side of that spectrum when you produce a clutch and you absolutely crush it on the
yeah,
odds. I had I had 2 clutches like that last year where I paired some snakes up and I was like, man, I'm gonna hope for the best. Like I know exactly what I want out of them, and hopefully
yeah,
I get them. And both clutches like hit the nail on the head each time. It was like textbook odds, and I was like, oh my god, this never happened. And I've
yeah.
been breeding ball pythons for years, and I'm like, it never happens this way. It never ever happens this way. you know but that was like coral glow, mojave, leopard, hypo, posset pied, and then like an Enchi Inferno Fader thing, possible Odium, whatever. And I was like, oh my gosh. What's up? Sal is here. My buddy Ben is here. Ben is another trumpet player. We used to teach together at the community music school in Springfield, Mass.
Nice.
Another great trumpet player.
I
But
want to say Springfield is close to me. Isn't Springfield? Doesn't 90 go through Springfield?
yeah, yep.
So if I cut through, because I'm pretty sure I sold a few snakes where I drove to Springfield and
Right
met
through there.
at a grocery store I've never heard the name of before, and you know,
Yep, certainly possible. Certainly
did
possible.
did did the did a legal looking transfer
Hey, at
of
least you were
breeder
at like a
size snake.
grocery. At least you're at like a grocery store, though. Usually, when I was living there, it was like, oh yeah, we're gonna go to the Walmart parking lot over there off of Boston Road, where it's like a trailer park on the left side and like half a
Yeah,
section of woods that's still there, and we just hope that the cops aren't there at that time,
Walmart is my spot. I don't,
dude.
since everything's in my facility is my house,
Mhm.
um, you gotta be like, it's not even like first snake, second, like I gotta know you and you gotta buy
Mhm.
multiple animals before I'm bringing you into my house.
Yeah,
So I'm
yeah,
always like,
100%. Yeah,
I'm at Walmart at the ends by the garden center.
yeah.
Always. I mean, I can't tell you how many transactions I've done in that fucking parking lot, but I
Yeah.
mean,
Hey, man, that's part of being a snake breeder. You got to have a Walmart nearby for your first
hell yeah,
transactions.
man. What what is the sketchiest reptile transaction that you've done in your life?
Oh man. Okay, so I'll tell you about one. This was really crazy, and this actually wasn't that long ago. Oddly enough, This was maybe 5 or 6 years ago. Going to pick up some carpet pythons from a buddy of mine who,
Hey,
I was friendly with, somebody that I've known for years. I'll keep them nameless because it's not important, but they kind of hit a rough patch in life and just needed to get out. And I was like, all right, cool, man, I get it, whatever. So he was hooking me up with some snakes, and he's like, hey, you can meet me at my buddy's house. And I'm there. I go out there with a buddy of mine, and dude, everybody in the house is tripping on acid, dude.
Oh shit!
Like big time. Like I was like, where's the snakes, dude? And he's like, oh yeah, they're down here, man. We go down to the basement, and it's like sketchy as shit basement, dude. It's like it looks like it's some terrible scene of a crack house, and everybody's like losing their mind. Their eyes are like all the way like bugged out to here, dude, and like can't walk in a straight line. And I'm like, I'm just here for the snakes, man. Like,
yeah,
I've never wanted to give somebody money to leave a vicinity faster in my life. I was like, I might be a musician, dude, but this scene died in like the 70s and 80s and like early 90s. I don't want to deal with this crap, man. Like, get me out of there, dude. That was probably the sketchiest transaction I've ever done. And it's crazy that it was like, I don't want to say later in my career, but like more recent in my career, 5-ish years ago. It's not very long,
Yeah.
Yeah. Oof. No, that was not pleasant. To this day, I still apologize to my buddy for bringing him into that situation. He's like, hey man, you remember when we get to go get those snakes for you and all those people were tripping on acid? I'm sorry, dude. I'm so sorry. I don't know why you're bringing this up again.
Yeah. I had a friend. It was one of those. Hey man, you think you can pick up a tegu for me? A tegu tank and 2 tegus in Poughkeepsie, New York.
Okay.
And Poughkeepsie's like, it's a rough area. So there's some rough areas in Poughkeepsie. So now I message a guy. Oh, everything's all good the next day. To meet and whatnot. And he messages back. So then I wake up to a fucking picture that he meant to send his wife of this massive guy, black guy in leopard print boxers and his dick out. And I'm going, I got to drive to this fucking weirdo's house. So it's that picture. And then it was like 20 messages of apologize.
Like, oh my God, I'm sorry. Oh my God, I'm sorry. Oh my God, I'm
sorry.
Yeah.
Like drunk messages, like apologizing. And I pull up to this neighborhood. This neighborhood's a rough neighborhood. Like,
yeah.
You can't be anywhere on that block without seeing a boarded up, rotten building, And I'm like, and it's me and my son, who's must have been like 8 years old at the time.
Oh boy.
Or no, maybe you're 10. I think I was like 10 or 11. All right. Get out of here. This is my smoking section, so no kids allowed. Yeah, so we go here to get these tegus, and the whole situation. The guy was apologized. It was hysterical. And he apologized. He was so embarrassed, and we grab these animals, and he's like, "Oh, these bins are good. They're not. They'll never pop out. With the latches. He had them in 32-quart Sterilite tubs with the purple latches.
Okay, yeah. Not
so
good
now
for
we're
tegu.
No, not good for 2-foot tegu, almost adult.
Yeah, no.
So now we're driving on the throughway, and all of a sudden you hear boom, boom, and then now you hear an animal scavenging around. Now, we watched this guy bag up these animals.
Mm.
They weren't friendly. They were hissing. They were not hand tamed tegus. They needed work. So they're hissing, trying to bite them and nudging, and I'm like, holy shit! I never even realized the tegus really whip their tails, and this one was tail whipping like a motherfucker. And
oh yeah.
So now we're in the car, hour in, and the fucking tegu gets out of the tub. My son's got his feet on the seat, going, "Dad, I'm scared. I'm scared, Dad. I'm scared." It was the funniest shit in the world. And I'm calling the guy. I'm like, dude, you made me come here for this shit. This guy sends me a fucking dick pic. And then I got to drive to him and get these animals and this, it was a 4x8 enclosure for him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 4x8x2.
Mm.
What a fucking mess. And I'm like, dude, I don't even know what to do. That Stego was so vicious when the guy bagged it up.
Yeah.
And it's loose in my back seat. Now I'm getting like tub lids and blocking it so it can't climb under the seat and go up the front of the thing. And that was like one of multiple. I gotta say, like when I first got in with the Craigslist deals, that's kind of what gets you. You see that treasure at the end of the road that you think is going to be a great deal, and then you're like, "What the fuck did I get myself into?"
Yeah.
I'm past that now. I'm done.
I bet that's just another one of those elements of paying your dues, man.
Oh yeah. So 12 years is that the longest of snake species that you've bred, or you're breeding other stuff?
No, I was definitely breeding other stuff. So I started keeping reptiles and stuff when I was about 8 years old. So about 20 years ago. And I started with a firebelly toad. That was like the coolest thing when I was a little kid, and I had those. I first bred green anoles when I was like 10, and it was like an accident because I didn't know I had a male and a female, but all of a sudden I was like, that's a big white piece of poop. And it turned out it was an egg.
It was an egg. Holy shit.
Yeah, so that was kind of cool. And then leopard geckos are what I first bred purposefully. And then I bred bearded dragons. But it wasn't until I was like 11-ish when my mom finally let me get a snake. So 17 years ago.
You're a young guy.
17 years ago. Yeah, I'm 28.
Holy shit. You're a young guy. Yeah. Not that I'm so old, but 28.
Yeah, no, I'm only 28. Yeah. So I got my first snake was a corn snake that we got from the local Petco, and it failed to thrive, unfortunately, like many pet reptiles do when you get them from the bigger box stores, because they just don't know how to take care of them. So you get them and they're already kind of failing. So after that snake, I'm kind of like, oh man, like I don't understand. I was really frustrated because I'm like, man, corn snakes, they're supposed to be like bulletproof, so I don't understand. I was already keeping other species of reptiles, so I was like, I know I'm not dumb, this should be a fairly simple thing. So I went to the local mom and pop shop, a pet store called Dave Soda and Pet City. Is really bizarre name for a pet shop, but I got my
sold
first
soda?
ball python. They sold soda, yeah. This is literally like aisles of soda, like from floor to the ceiling, like of soda.
Oh my god,
it was ridiculous. Like all, obviously like Coke and Pepsi and whatever, but then like all these other like weird sodas from like local
different countries,
Massachusetts places and like other countries and stuff. And we were just like, what the hell is this? But it's kind of cool. I mean, like, yeah, let me grab this ball python and let me get one of those, Japanese Cokes or whatever, just something weird that you're like, I've never seen that before. I want to try it. So it was a cool spot, but I got this ball python there. I still have it. And that was my mom's biggest mistake, was letting me get that first snake, because it was all downhill from there. I was like, oh well, because I was already breeding lizards. So I was like, oh, and I'm like selling them for $20-$30 a piece, to my friends or whatever. So I'm like, I bet you I could do the same thing with snakes. And that was just like, I was like, oh, I got this. Now I got this. Now I got this. And the first guy who ever took me seriously when I was a kid was a guy named Adam Harris. Great guy, owner of Harris and Wonderland Pets down in Avon, Connecticut. And he met me when I was like 12, 13. And I was like, I want to work with snakes, for a living. That's my dream. And he was like, yeah, that's cool. You should come by my shop. What do you keep? Whatever. So I go to his shop and I was like, oh my God, this place is awesome. He had like every kind of reptile that I was like reading about in books and seeing online. He had a big Nile monitor that was tame. ball pythons, colubrids, all this crazy stuff. And I was like, that was the moment where I was like digging in. I was like, this is everything. It's the cool thing. You know, and I started to meet some other people in the general area, and I just got really well connected to people because I was this kid that already had all these animals. And when they're, oh, you know, what do you keep? Oh, I keep leopard geckos and I breed them and I breed bearded dragons and whatever. And they're like, you're like 12, dude, 12, 13 years old. What are you doing? And then when I was about 16, I met Kevin for the first time. A buddy of mine hooked me up with a private tour here at Nerd. And that's when I met Kevin. And 12 years later, I'm still bugging the poor guy. But now I work for him, so I get paid to bug him. So
nice. Yeah, I mean you're side by side with a reptile encyclopedia.
Yeah, literally, and it's amazing and scary every day.
Yeah, I got to shake his hand. I went full fanboy. I was like, hey man, I'm Chino from DMJ Reptiles.
Yeah,
he was busy. He was with Kicks. He was with Fred.
Oh, he was going. I was like, I heard he was either staring at Kicks balls for most of the day, or he was trying to find more tokay geckos. That's what I heard his two things were.
You know, I didn't actually see any tokay geckos there.
Really?
I don't think Rob brought any, did he?
No, I don't think we.
I don't think he did.
We're hoarding all of our tokays that we're producing right now.
I'm like, I gotta like. I've been battling with tokays for years.
Really?
And I had them as like a trio.
Mm-hmm.
And then my buddy explains to me that you don't want to do that because you may run into a female killing the other one's eggs. And that's what I ran into. So I was always getting like empty. I was getting that flat white mark where the egg was, teasing me.
No egg. Yeah.
And then I finally... I got a clutch. I got a clutch of eggs. I incubated them. And one of them pipped and I didn't realize it. And it didn't climb out of the egg. Oh, and that one died. And then I guess a couple days later, the other one pipped and the other one made it. But since they were still a trio, I was afraid to put the baby in to get killed by the family.
Yeah.
So I was doing the whole grabbing feces and mixing it in with Pangea and then using a syringe and syringe feeding this thing to try to build up that bacteria. Because from what I understand, they don't have bacteria in their stomach. And that's why it's important for mom and dad to raise them.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it didn't make it, man. I kept that thing alive for 6 months and then it passed on me. And then I was like, screw it. I'm finally separating them. So I went with the bigger female, assuming the bigger female was laying the eggs.
And
in fact, it was the smaller one. So they finally laid eggs and he is chirping his head off. And my fingers are crossed that they'll have their eggs. Because I'll go in. I mean, like tokays are assholes. Unless you like hand tame them from the baby. And I got a friend that he has one named Chip that sits on his shoulder, and they're paired. He goes to sleep with his lizard on his shoulder.
Oh man,
he goes
for a tokay. That's real cool,
dude. You go to the expos, and he's got the tokay. He has a hand towel clipped to his shirt and a tokay sitting on the back, walking through the chaos. Pre-COVID.
That's nuts. For a tokay, that's nuts. I think there's an old video of Kevin. It's from 2010 or 2011 down in Daytona. And Jeff Barringer is like going through his table with him and he's showing off tokays, and like Kevin just like picks up a tokay and is like, yeah, they're great. They're awesome. Like I can tame anybody's tokay. And 10 plus years ago, that was like unheard of.
Yeah.
Like, every tokay was vicious, and he's like, no, man, they're great. Look at this. Oh, it's a tokay gecko. And Jeff's like, what?
His magical powers. I mean,
dude, it's all secret, special secret. It's all in the ponytail.
It's got to be the ponytail. It must. I don't know, man. I had my rock star hair when mine escaped. I didn't clip the screen door, the custom, because I made them vertical tanks. and I didn't clip the door, so when it jumped on the door and swung it wide open.
Swung it open. Yeah.
So now my wife wakes me up at like 3 a.m. Is like, fucking toe cake escape. And I'm like, what do you want me to do? I'm going to work in 2 hours,
Yeah.
So I go to work. I'm like, fuck it, go to work.
Yeah.
She's messaging me all day. Like, this thing's behind my tall snake rack is a 13 high, 41 quart Starlight rack.
Yeah.
And it's behind it. So I had to stand on a desk. And the way I was able to lure this little bastard out was I used a snake hook, and I was putting the snake hook next to it, and it was starting to get pissed off. It started attacking the snake hook. So then I was able to drag the snake hook out, so it chased after the snake hook.
Yeah.
And then I just put my hand in front for her to bite.
Ooh.
And she bit me, and she went back in her setup.
Sacrifice. That's.
But they're just
for you, sir.
they're such intriguing animals, I mean, I think it's really because my father's from the Philippines, so they're everywhere in the Philippines.
Yeah, that's native. Yeah,
he said that when it rains, they come into your house. When it rains, it comes into your house, and everyone's ready with the broomstick to shoo them out the windows. Because he's it was weird having it loose in the house. My wife was very upset about it. I can tell you that much.
One of my most interesting escapee stories is I was still in high school living with my parents, obviously, and I had a room full of reptiles at my parents' place, and my mom. This is like towards the end of the school year, so my mom, who is also a teacher's aide. So she's up stupid early, starts like shaking me awake, and it's like, your green tree python got out. Your green tree python got out.
Oh,
and
fuck.
I'm like, oh God. So I'm not a morning person, full disclosure. Like, it takes me forever to get my ass out of bed. And I'm like, don't worry about it, and she's like, no, it's out. It's out. You gotta find it. So I kind of rolled over at her, and I was like, look up. Like, go in the room and look up. You'll find it. I guarantee you. And she's like, just get the fuck out of bed. Blah, blah, blah. Like, she's like losing her mind. So I like zombie walk into my snake room. I look at the cage. I see that the door. It had a sliding glass door to the cage, and it didn't have a lock because I was dumb. And she pushed it over just enough to get herself out. And I just kind of look up, and I can see the little trail of destruction where she climbed onto this rack and knocked that over, climbed onto this rack and knocked that over. And I look a little more to the left, and I had a stack of cages for all my boas and bigger constrictors, went from my floor to the ceiling. And there was maybe like 5 inches of clearance between the top of the top cage and the ceiling. And the back left corner, sure enough, she was perched right there, just on the cage. So I call my mom into the room, and I'm still like half asleep. So I'm like, I told you to look up. And I go back to bed because she's up at like 4 in the fucking morning, and I don't have to be up until 6:30. So I'm like, I'm going back to bed. And she's like, where are you going? You have to get that. And I was like, it's not going to move. It's not going to move at all. And she's like, no, you have to get it. You have to get it. And I'm like, nope, it's not going to move. I'll get it when I actually have to get up and come into the room and turn lights on and all that stuff. And she was very frustrated. So like 6:30 in the morning, I go into the room, and she's still perched in the same spot. I took a picture of it and sent it to her, and I was like, still there. I got her down, and she was actually quite tame. So I got her down, put her right back in the cage. There's no problem at all. But yeah, I was like, just look up. I'm too tired for this crap.
So you were able to text you other than a green tree getting out.
Yeah,
I'm more fascinated that you were a kid and you were able to photo text.
This was like 2010 ish, so not that long ago.
I was already a dad.
I was like, I'm I'm getting ready to graduate high school, and then I don't know what I'm going to do with my life.
So I'm sure you've been tagged by green trees.
Amazingly, only once, and it happened this year.
How big?
An adult.
Ooh.
A nice big adult. I was trying to pull some poo out of a big green tree cage at Nerd, and I didn't realize that because I was just kind of in a rush. I didn't realize it was one of the enclosures that had 2 green trees in it. So I only saw the head of one, and I was like, oh, okay, it's fine. It's facing the other direction. And as soon as I stick my hand in there, wham, the other one that was like also perched, like entwined into it, because it all looked like one big green tree. And again, I'm in a rush. I'm not paying attention. The other one, whose head was just out of my line of sight, just whap right to my fingers. And I was like, son of a.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was not pleasant.
Their teeth are crazy. I mean, that side view of a green tree, the signature picture of a green tree showing its teeth, and
yep, them and emerald tree boas, man. I've never been bitten by an emerald, thank God. But yeah, they've got some gnarly teeth, dude. Some seriously gnarly teeth.
Seems like the arboreals. I don't think. Which is now I can't. Now I'm going back 20 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Suriname's the arboreal red tail, isn't it?
No, Suriname has red tails, but I mean you can get emerald tree boas out of Suriname. But
I know that there's a red tail that dominantly stays in the trees.
Well, I mean, a lot of BCCs are especially as juveniles and subadults, they're semi-arboreal. But once they're those big monsters, they're like, I only climb if I have to.
Yeah, we had one escape at the pet store. Because when you're working at a pet store, forget it. All types of animals escape.
Oh, yeah.
And we had when you go to Home Depot and they have all the heavy steel shelving and they have shit on the second ledge up high.
Oh yeah.
So we went up too high in this pet store, and that's where we kept all the doggy beds and shit.
Yep.
And of course, the boa went up there, and I'm afraid of heights, so I was already scared shitless going up there. And yeah, I almost got bit in the face by that fucker. I moved the cat bed, and it was just ready to pop. It knew I was close.
Yeah. Oh man.
But I never got bit. Green tree is on my radar one day.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I would breed them.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't think I was going to breed a lot of species I breed now. But I don't know. I always picture a green tree in a nice sized tank. A really big tank with really nice branches, and really letting the elegance of that animal be able to go around and all that. I would love to have one as a pet one day, but I am dreading the fact that once you have it, that countdown is official. That
a bit, yeah. Yeah. No, I kept green trees for a little while, and a lot of arboreal stuff, especially when I was still living in Massachusetts, living with my folks, a lot of the arboreal stuff was tricky for me to keep because I kept when I was really cranking reptiles, I kept probably 26 different species in the same room, and it was a challenge. And the ambient room temperature was always quite warm, and a lot of arboreal stuff is not a fan of high temperatures. So they never really did all that great for me. I think the green trees did the best because I had Amazon tree boas and stuff too, and the heat I always had to keep them down low, either in a cage stack or a rack system, and then just kind of let it be ambient temperature, not really offer much of a hot spot. But the one time I bred green trees, I had the typical green tree first time breeder experience for back in that time, which was you breed it and you're going to get all slugs. You might get a good egg or not. And then that next season you try to breed them, and then you generally have a good clutch. So it's kind of like a Morelia way of passage, so to speak, of just getting that first clutch is usually just kind of junky. and that's not always the case, but it was quite common to get that. And not being able to provide the best temperature gradient for especially during the breeding season made that experience that much more dreadful. But especially now with a lot more people breeding green trees and the access to captive bred arboreal species becomes a lot more readily available. There's a lot more people having success with them. My buddy Lucas, 16, Cobra Keeper Jr. on Instagram. I've shared a bunch of stuff with him of him recently. 16 years old, bred green trees, got a perfect clutch of 10 eggs. And,
nice.
And they're incubating right now. And I'm like, dude, I couldn't do that when I was 16 or 17 years old. So you're already smoking me, dude.
You're ahead of the game. I love that. I love seeing the young people that are so motivated in it. My son has been like, it's been his chores. It's like just 2 shows, not this past New Hampshire show, the show before that. Mm-hmm. He sold an animal and I gave him half the money, and then all of a sudden it was like
the light switch just kind of deal.
Fucking yeah. And now he's like game. He's trying to learn, and now he has some snakes, and we're gonna do some projects and do some collaborations together, and
hell yeah,
it'll be cool, essentially, because God forbid anything happens, I gotta hope that the knowledge I give him will be able to be successful with it.
Yeah, for sure. No, man, it really is. It really is amazing, and Rob and I have talked a lot about it on on the Reptile Talk podcast, just like how much easier it is now to gain information than it was, 10, 15 years ago when it comes to so many of these different species. I mean,
6 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. It was
people
still
were hot in their shit. Everybody was like,
exactly.
Oh, so Python world was savage. It wasn't like how it is now,
dude. Like when you were saying, like, you get a banana ball for $250, and I'm like, man, I remember watching a video from Garrick DeMeyer where he's talking about dropping over $100,000 on like 2 banana combos, and like, oh my God, dude, like that's ridiculous. I remember looking at Nerd's website, and male coral glows were $65,000 a piece because it was before we knew about the sex linkage of the trait.
Shit.
So everything was coming out females, and you'd get that random male. And even if you started to breed that male, everything was still females because it needed to be a second generation male from a female to then have it switch. And now that's why females are so hard to come by, because everybody flooded males onto the market and nobody kept track of what generation it was coming from. So now that's why you're seeing the males everywhere, and that's why females are a lot more valuable. But like thinking about stuff like that, and now you see like a coral glow / banana, it's the same damn thing, everybody. You're seeing them for $150, and I'm like, dude, I remember there used to be a comma. There used to be a comma in there.
Oh yeah. I mean, the banana was the most expensive morph.
Yeah, it was like
still is,
and
right?
Banana. Yeah.
So crazy.
Yeah, it really is ridiculous. I mean, I remember 2014 being at Daytona, walking past Dynasty Reptiles table and seeing all the coral glow combos, and I was like, oh my God, and seeing where that price point was, and I was like, man, things have certainly changed. And not to say that was like the downfall of the industry, but it's certainly when things started to change, and I think that's when a lot of price points started to kind of even out a little bit. I mean, I think it's amazing now that, your first ball python could be a banana ball python, when, 10 plus years ago, it was, just for the tippity top people, I remember when Spinner Blast, Bumblebee Pinstripes, I remember when those things were $5,000, and now you can get them for $200. It's crazy. But I think in some instances, I don't think the price point is justified. In other instances, I do think the price point is justified. Like, I don't think a hypo ball python should be $60. I think that should be, still at least $100 snake, because it's a recessive mutation. Somebody has to go through,
I
that
think it's up
extra
now,
step.
though.
It
I don't.
probably is, as hypo's certainly gotten more popular
Oh yeah,
over the last couple of years. But I think the ball pythons in particular, that market has seen the most, I'll say, up and down. And then as a lot of new people are coming into the game, and different people are kind of catching on to certain projects, you're just going to see that wave kind of continuously move, like with hypo, with Desert
oh, yeah.
Ghost, with Cryptic, with all that stuff. Where it was like some of these things were just kind of tossed off to the side and forgotten about, and now all it takes is that one combo, and
To bring it
then
back.
boom, it goes crazy.
Well, it's like albino's on a big comeback as well.
Say that
Just
one more time.
regular albino,
Oh
not even
yeah, for
lavender
sure.
or candy, or I mean, just regular albino. And
Yeah.
I kind of lucked out. The way I got into albino, the way I got into a lot of recessive projects. It wasn't because I wanted them; it was because the price was right.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I paid $30 for 3 female het albinos.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Jeez.
$10 each.
Sheesh.
Like it was like a group. I was buying out a collection, and I was kind of like, "Yeah, you can keep the het albinos." She's like,
Like
she's like,
no.
"No, come on, give me $20 each. They're worth more than that." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, well, I don't know." It's like, just take the snakes and give me $30. And I'm like, all right, fine, fuck
All
it, I'll
right,
take
there
them.
you
And
go. Yeah.
and now, like, I have albino mixed in with pied. I have
Mhm.
albino by itself. There's now I have Gomez pythons got me some double het candy pieds. So
There you go.
now
Sal.
candy's in it.
Sal with those candy combos, man.
I know he kills me with them because it's to a point where I feel like as you grow as a breeder, you gotta pace yourself,
Mhm.
and you can't grow too fast, right?
Yeah.
My buddy, and I've said it before, he when I talk to him about his energy drink, he has an energy drink
Mhm.
called Grip,
Mhm.
Grip energy drink. It used to be called Grenade, and I said, well, why don't Gatorade sued them 4 times. You're doing it right when Gatorade sues you and loses 4 fucking times. Um, Coca-Cola's been trying to buy him out. Pepsi's been trying to buy him out.
Mhm.
And they're kind of just like, no, we'll stick to a few states and we'll do those states. And it's very big with NASCAR
Mhm.
tracks down south. And I said, well, why wouldn't you do that? Like, why wouldn't you go to the big cities like New York or Massachusetts
Mhm.
or Boston? And they're like, well, we don't want a mushroom. I said, a mushroom grows, and when the mushroom head grows too big, it tips over.
Yeah.
So when you grow your business, you want to grow it like an oak tree. You want the trunk to be thick and keep going,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and so like right now I'm at a point where until I have a facility, I gotta like ease off on adding these new projects,
Yeah.
especially with the whole back year, because I jumped into the Desert Ghost Pie project.
Oh yeah,
So
that's a good one.
yeah, and I got that from Doug Matusak of Bow Basement.
Mhm.
Um, a female maker, banana desert ghost hepide, male. So I'm breeding that fucker to everything,
Hell yeah,
and
dude.
you know, hopefully he gives me 6 clutches, and if he does, I have female banana het desert ghost, and I have a odds that I'm gonna hit pied banana pied.
Mhm.
And then the pairings I paired. I mean, I paired to 2 cinnamon hepides.
Ooh, yeah.
So,
That's
cinnamon
some cool
banana.
stuff.
I want a
Yeah.
cinnamon banana pied female. Really do. And then head desert ghost. Even
That's
though
just
it's
an
going to be a
added
low
benefit.
white, but that tone that it'll have, I think will be fucking sharp.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. I definitely I like the Desert Ghost Pied stuff. Desert Ghost is definitely another one of those genes that's just like gone through
blown
a
up.
massive resurgence, you know, and
Oh, yeah.
and I'm gonna say this not just because I work for Nerd, but because I've seen a lot of Desert Ghost stuff. Nerdline Desert Ghost is the best Desert Ghost that exists. And I'm not saying that because I'm biased, but but I'm saying that because it was like the OG Desert Ghost that was ever brought into the country. And those adults, like, we still have some of the first babies that were produced from that, and they are like almost bone white and black. It is freaking nuts. But anyway, I don't want to make anybody mad that's working with a different line of Desert Ghost. But
it's compatible with everyone else. It's right. It's just
if I remember correctly, it's actually not. But I need to confirm that with Kevin before I go officially on record to say that.
Oh man, you're making me want
I don't
another
remember.
recessive now.
Sorry. But like, man, like I've got a pastel Desert Ghost Het clown that I'm just raising up, just female that I'm raising up, and dude, it's so freaking clean and whatever. So okay, so I have I'll go on a really quick short tangent about Desert Ghost. So when I was a teenager and Kevin had just done the Desert Ghost Lemon Blast, I was in awe of that snake. Like, I saw the picture on Nerd's website and I was like, I need that snake. And I had the $8,500 to purchase that snake. I was like, I am ready to do
How
this.
old were you?
I was a teenager. I was selling snakes, man. And
shit.
I was like, you know, I'm like hitting up Kevin. Hey man, are you gonna be at White Plains? I want this snake. Blah blah blah. And he's like, yeah, I'll be at White Plains. I'll have it at White Plains. Okay, perfect. I'm at White Plains. I see his table. I don't see the snake, and I'm like, maybe he's got it under the table because I told him I wanted it, whatever. And I chase him down because he's like me. We're never at our table. He and I are like never at our tables at a show. We're off talking and gallivanting and doing whatever. We're letting other people do the hard work. And I find him and I'm like, dude, I like grab him. I'm like, where is this snake? I need this snake. And he's like, oh, we just sent it to Canada. And I was like, you bastard.
Oh no.
And I was like, I told you I wanted that snake. He's like, sorry, I'll have more this year. And then like we never discussed it ever again because I was so sad. And then I ended up buying a bunch of other stuff anyway. Like I bought like a Super Phantom female, a Spinner Blast Het Pied, and like an Enchi Het Pied from him that essentially totaled around the same back then. But I never got any Desert Ghost after that. Like, never looked at it because I was so like crushed that I couldn't get that snake. And I got the opportunity to take that female and raise it, and it was kind of funny. So I was like, man, I just kept staring at the snake, and I was like, I live 2 miles from Nerd, so not very far at all. And every once in a while, if I get my eye on a snake, I might just kind of put it off to the side and be like, yeah, I'll watch it grow up a little bit, and if I like it, I'll pull the trigger. And I just kept staring at it, and I kept staring at it, and then I noticed that Kevin was staring at it, and I was like, he's gonna move that snake, and I'm gonna forget where it is. So I brought it home. And then he was like, hey, do you know what happened to that pastel Desert Ghost Het clown? Like, I think we should raise that. I don't think we should post it for sale. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm way ahead of you, dude. Don't worry about it. And he's like, oh, so it didn't go on the website or anything? I'm like, no, don't worry about it. It's fine. He's like, well, where is it? I was like, it's 2 miles down the road. Don't worry about it, dude.
Oh shit.
He was like, you bastard. And I was like, if you want it back, I'll bring it back. But it's safe with me, and I'm going to raise it up for you. So it's okay. And I have a crazy clown combo male that's Het Desert Ghost to put to it. So I'm like, dude, I got you. Don't worry about it,
And this is all Nerdline DG.
Yeah. Yeah, so I've got that girl, and then I've got like a Lucifer Spinner Blast Yellow Belly possible OD clown, 100% Het Desert Nerdline Desert Ghost to put to it. So we'll see what ends up popping out of that. But I like stare at those snakes like every day. Every time I go into my snake room, those are like the first drawers that I pull out if I want to look at ball pythons. I'm like, yeah, these are pretty badass.
Oh, that's hell yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, but
now you got the wheels turning. I may
yeah,
have
man,
to.
there's some cool shit. I see Genomic Labs that I'm still waiting for Kevin to drop a video on the Nerdline DG. I need to get him to do that. The problem, I'm gonna let you guys in on a little secret when it comes to Kevin showing off ball pythons. When you get Kevin really focused on something, he goes all in, like 100% all in. Like there's no half-assing it. So like if you guys saw the Odium video that we did a while back, my idea of the Odium video was kind of reminiscent of like a Justin Kabelka morph video, where it's like, hey, here's the the base gene, here's a simple combo of it, and here's like some double triple gene combos, and then here's like a bam, like a crazy combo with it. So I wanted Kev to kind of do the same thing. So I picked out, 10 or so snakes for the video. And then next thing I know, there's 30 snakes in the room. And he's like, we got to show off all these. And I was like, no, everybody's going to be so confused. And we put out that video, and I got a bunch of people that messaged me that were like, hey, we're so glad that he did the Odium video, but I still don't understand a damn thing. And I was like, sorry. So I'm the one nice thing with Desert Ghost is for the longest time, Desert Ghost is kind of like forgotten about. So it wasn't really anything that we were really pushing. Like we had done Pastel Desert Ghost Clown and Desert Ghost Lemon Blast and more just Pastel Desert Ghost and like all that kind of stuff. But we never really branched out from there. This year, that is very much changing. Yeah, it's interesting. It's very interesting. So there's some stuff. I wonder if that one he sent to Canada spawned the enhancer line of DG. I honestly, I don't know. I don't know. When he sends stuff out of the country, I typically don't know about it. But that also happened before I was working at Nerd. So, but yeah, Desert Ghost is definitely one of those genes that we're still still very much in the infancy of, for sure.
I love it. I mean, I think certain morphs catch my attention, and when you can turn something like a pinstripe into a Desert Ghost pinstripe,
yeah,
I mean, it's amazing. It's a totally different animal. It's
yeah,
killer combo.
Yeah, it really is something special, man, for sure. And yeah, we're gonna start to see some really, really cool combos, not just from Nerd with Desert Ghost. I mean, obviously we're already seeing some ridiculous combos popping up, from people that are just doing some great work with the genes. And I think kind of similar to what you had kind of touched on before, where it's like, people get into breeding stuff and they're like, oh, I'm going to get this and I'm going to get this and then I'm going to breed them. And then I should get, 2 of these and 2 of those. And
5 years, I'll breed that. And,
yeah. And I think we start to see that even more so now, because one of the things that we zero in on and focus, especially in the social media aspect of keeping reptiles, is breeding, in particular ball pythons, just because like they're such a common species, or arguably the most popular species of reptile kept, or snake at least kept. So we get these people, you get younger people or people that are like interested in making the quick buck, that are like, oh, I'll drop a quick, $250 on this and $200 on that, and I'll make some $600 snakes, and that'll be really cool, and blah, blah, blah. And like, they have zero idea of what they're doing, that genetics is not an exact science, any of that. They don't even know how to maintain the damn things. And they've like planned a business model. They've got all these great ideas and whatever. And sometimes those ideas are wonderful, but more often than not, they fizzle out, and or they breed something and they don't get what they thought they were going to get, because genetics is often unkind, and and they kind of fizzle out. And not to say that's a negative aspect of social media, but it's one of those things where it's like, just take a step back for a sec, just kind of like look at what your options are, kind of like just figure out what you want to do and the direction you want to go. I mean, like, we get asked all of the time, oh, I have this such and such a blah 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 ball python, and I'm thinking about breeding. What do you think I should breed it to? I get that question all the time, both through Nerd and personally, and I always tell people the same thing, and this is kind of regardless of species, but kind of really focusing on ball pythons here. That's you got to work with what you freaking like.
Yeah.
Like you have to, and that morph might not be incredibly popular at that point in time, but the value might come later. If you see one of these kind of resurgences, but the value comes from your passion. If you see me at a reptile show, so I love Hidden Gene Woma stuff and Spot Nose stuff. Those are like my two genes. You show me any one of those combos with those genes in it, and I'm loving it. I'm like automatically loving it. And sometimes those morphs get a bad rap, because they sometimes they wobble a little bit or whatever, all that wobble nonsense. But
but they eat really good.
They eat great. Yeah, they're awesome. But it's your job at that point to be like, okay, well, I'm going to charge, X amount of money, because the reptile market is still a free market in terms of nobody's saying you have to charge X amount for an albino. Nobody's saying you have to charge X amount for this more, for this more, for this more. You make your own price, and like you kind of see where the market's at and you price accordingly. There isn't like a grand entity that is like, you charge $200 for your albinos. Like nobody's doing that. So you price your animal what you think is fair, and then part of your job is selling it is like talking about it. Like, why do you think that animal's awesome? What about it catches your eye? Like, why are you so invested in this snake? Be it the way it looks or whatever catches your attention. You want to like pass along that kind of passion, because that person might also then see those things and get excited about those same things. So like for me, Hidden Gene Woma at least is like, I have a long history with Hidden Gene Woma. It's kind of stemming from Nerd, because when I was really kind of understanding genetics, I was really enthralled by Infernos. So the Hidden Gene Woma pastel yellow belly granite fader stuff. And every time I was seeing Hidden Gene Woma, it was always labeled Hidden Gene Woma granite, Hidden Gene Woma granite, Hidden Gene Woma granite. And I was like, I don't understand granite. Like I'm not seeing granite in this combo. I don't know how to tell it apart from an animal. It doesn't have granite, whatever. So one of the times I was at Nerd, I was asking Kevin about it. And it was like when I was still kind of new to visiting Nerd. So I asked Kevin about it, and he like grabs me, brings me into one of the ball python breeding rooms, and he's like, shows me a ball python with a big dot right at the start of the neck stripe, right behind the head. Yeah. He's like, you see that dot? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, that's granite. And I was like, that's a dot. What are you talking about? It's like, I don't understand what that's a dot, dude. And he starts showing me all these different combos, and they're all granite combos, and they all had that dot with the Hidden Gene Woma. And then he's like, and then you see all this extra, speckling here and whatever. And then I also noticed that along the eye stripe, there tended to be some speckling towards the back of the eye stripes. And I pointed that out, and he was like, oh, so you can pay attention. And I was like, yeah, I try sometimes. And then I was like, okay, so I'm kind of getting this idea, but what does it look like without granite? And he starts showing me some examples. There's no dot behind the, in the neck stripe. There's no speckling in the eyes. There's a lot less noise, what we call noise, just speckling through the pattern of the snake. And up until that time, I had never seen it. I'd never understood it. So those were the kind of things. So for me, Hidden Gene Woma, like those are the kind of things I was like starting to look at subtleties and understand subtleties. And back then the ball python forums and everything, we used to make fun of people who were like, look, my snake has an extra dot, it must be something new and unique. Yeah. And it's like, no, you idiot, it's just got a dot, and then here's Kevin McCurley like, you see that dot, boy? And I'm like, what? I just ridiculed 20 people over a fucking dot, and now you're telling me that this dot is what's doing it? Like, I was like, what is happening?
Are you? So would you say that you're good at picking out granite?
With certain combos, yeah, and there's also like there's genetic granites, and then there's just animals that have like the granite appearance. So like the granite that worked its way into the Hidden Gene Woma stuff, that came from a genetic granite. We actually still have that genetic granite, like the OG genetic granite. And when it was bred into Hidden Gene Woma, it like married itself to it. So it was for some reason they just linked very, very well, and it's actually quite challenging to separate them. It's possible, but it's a little bit more challenging to get something from Hidden Gene Woma granite to then not be
Just
a Hidden Gene Woma
Gene or
granite.
Yeah, they're like the
Yeah,
opposite.
so it's
they want to be
so
together.
It's interesting. Yeah, so it's very interesting. So depending on the combos, it's pretty simple to see. But then there's other kinds of granites that are just kind of like there, where it's like, yeah, it's kind of granite, and but the offspring don't really necessarily look like much, or they might have like an extra speckle here and there, and that's kind of it. Those mutations are tricky because you're talking about an actual genetic version of it, and then like polygenic versions where the animal just happens to have a little bit of extra speckling, and that's kind of it.
Because I have a possible granite from one of your neighbors.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Scott from CB Exotics.
Yeah.
So I bought what the fuck is it again? It's a champagne possible het granite. Well, possible granite. Double het pied orange ghost.
Okay. So champagne with granite. That's kind of tricky. Because champagne in and of itself has so much polygenic possibilities as far as what it actually looks like. So that one's kind of hard to really decipher. Oh, and it's got the really cool paradox spots.
It's got the awesome paradox spots. It's got a bright orange nose. And its head is really orange, but the camera's not picking it up. Oh, you can kind of see it right there. And it's crazy. This snake color changes, man. Like when it gets close to shed, the grays pop out, the greens and the color. But then once it sheds, then the whole snake looks like that, just bright.
Oh, damn.
Bright orange. Yeah. So I'm like, every collection, whenever you buy, like I bought a lot of proven breeders, and that's pretty much how I built up my collection of breeders. Yeah, I couldn't turn down. 4 years ago, I was getting fucking hypo females, proven breeder hypo females for $60.
Yeah,
crazy.
Yeah, it is ridiculous.
Pastels, $50. That's why I have 9 of them. And I mean, you can breed anything to them, and they give me 8 eggs a year.
That's
so
true.
I'm like, but I have ones that have markers, and I'm like, oh, maybe it's het pied, So I'm like, fuck it, I'll breed a champagne to it and try to prove it out, So that's been my latest project with a pastel champagne. But I don't know, man. When I saw that snake, Scott had a bunch of them. He had an orange ghost het pied champagne that was like that snake, but even brighter. But he was explaining with the head being so clean and then being so bright, he's like pretty positive. He's like, I'm pretty confident it's going to prove out to be granite. So I'm like, oh, maybe I'll go for an original soul sucker, and
the OG stuff. Yeah, man.
Yeah, and I had a soul sucker and I sold it, and the person fucking killed it. And it was a legit soul sucker. It was a Mojave Hidden Gene Woma granite. And I sold every baby too. Like I didn't keep one. I hit 2 soul suckers. Because you know what it was? And that's what I ran into. It was they looked different, but they looked similar, and they had the purple hues, and they had the reduced pattern, they had everything, but I felt like one of them was missing either Hidden Gene Wuma or the other one was missing Hidden. You know, I couldn't say that they had all the genes in the baby, you know? So it kind of scares me when it happens, and I'm kind of like, I just don't want to mislabel an animal and sell it. I'll prefer to just grow it out and prove it out, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For
Or
sure.
if it's a male, then you fucking sell it and you're like, yeah, breed it. You may hit the jackpot because I'm pretty sure it has that in it, you know? And I unfortunately, we have a lot of those sales.
Yeah. The soul sucker stuff, man. I remember seeing some of those from the original ones from Nerd, and I was like, oh my God, that snake. I don't know how that snake exists. And then when we all figured out it was a lot of people discounted Granite really quick. So everybody's like, it's just a 2 gene combo, even though it's a 3 gene. But people were like, what? That doesn't make any sense. And it was, I mean, it's one of those few times where, or one of the original times where we're seeing, an epistatic relationship where, you put these 2 genes together that look like one thing and you expect, one thing out of them. And then you get a snake that's completely different looking than what you expect. And you're like, what is that? Same thing with
I got one of those. It's when you hope they're female. You're like, hope they be female. Yeah, I'll hold you back.
Yeah. Oh man, but yeah, it's crazy, man. It really is. It really is nuts. I think the one thing that makes ball python sometimes kind of tricky, especially with a lot of the subtlety stuff, is a lot of times we forget about polygenics and essentially just the fact that you can look at 16 different pastels and all 16 might be just a little different, and I'm not talking about the different lines. I'm talking about like if you took 16 lemon pastels, the old school lemon line pastels, they'd all look a little different, and each one might give you kind of a different look with babies and those kind of things. And I think now we've kind of like gone away with that. I think we saw a lot more of that when people are like, look at that extra dot, like it must mean it's something, it's something really special. And it's like, well, I mean, polygenics is still kind of a thing. But if you want to, have that Dinker project, for those people who've been around long enough to remember that term, the Dinker genes, you do it. Other people are like, let somebody else do the work, and I'm gonna kind of do that kind of stuff. But back then, I mean, before all the crazy morphs were happening, it was like line breeding. It was like you had lemon pastel, you had Graziani's pastel, you had the citrus pastel, you had this, you had that, and they all had their own kind of things going on with them, and it's just really interesting to see. And then all these other morphs started coming in, and we're seeing that nobody really, not to say nobody cares about it, but there's a lot less emphasis on that in the ball python world, just because there are so many mutations that are available. It's a lot easier to be like, I want to spend 5 years of my life chasing this double recessive project versus I want to spend the next 5 years of my life making this very yellow pastel even more yellow. But with that, I mean, you take somebody like Albie from Albie's Too Cool Reptiles, and I mean, he's been like he's very particular about his stuff, and he's like all into the like, this is like line bred, I want it to look this way and whatever. And you look at his stuff and you're like, man, that's really nice for an overall not necessarily crazy genetic animal. It might just be a 3 or 4 gene combo, but you're like, damn, that doesn't look like any of the other ones I've ever seen before. And it's just because he had spent so much time kind of refining a lot of what he was working with at his foundation, and it made like all the difference in the world. So I don't know, there's so many options. Ball pythons are very cool.
I mean, I definitely I definitely would say that agree with you with it. Like it's like hypo, for example. Like you got 1,000 different. Everyone has all different ones.
Yeah.
And it's. I mean, me personally, I think it's just it's. They're all variants. I mean, they all can be bred to each other. So it's just some produce more of the original hypo, which is more of like a grayish blue and looks almost xanthic. Versus the ones that are showing more orange and more brown pigment. Where the original one, like I have she's got to be about 12, 13 years old. And she looks like an xanthic. I've had people look at me like, oh, it's an xanthic. I'm like, no, it's not. It's a hypo. What? I'm like, yeah, that's what hypo really, that's what it originally, but everybody kind of line bred out the brightness. Because when you do mix it, when I bred a pastel to her, it's not the pastel hypo. Pastel orange ghost is like one of my favorite hypo combos. Just because it really, really cleans up and brightens everything up, and then the blacks are kind of faded, so that whole transition between everything is so clean.
Yeah,
but
I'm staring at the. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
The line breeding. I feel like line breeding. A prime example would be the comparison between VPI xanthic and TSK or SK snakekeeper xanthic, where VPI xanthic, like everybody was just breeding them, even if it was like a low expression, like it was one that only looked gray 1 week out of per shed. People are like, well, fuck it, I'm gonna breed it anyway and make hets. And where I feel like the TSK kind of was line bred, and that's why you see these snakes that JD has that are just
He's got some silly snakes, that's for sure.
Yeah. Did you see this comment?
Yeah, that's what I was staring at. That's what I was gonna say. I didn't mean to cut you off. Is hidden genome allelic with anything? So, and then I was like reading the thread of comments that was going on after that. So to my knowledge, no. And then Scales from the Crypt said Brian said lesser and hidden genome was allelic, but I honestly think the word he needed to use was epistatic. Yeah, so it's not allelic with GHI because in Baller's Garage says something about that. It's not allelic with GHI because we've got that stuff, and you can have a super GHI hidden genome combo. But I think I think the word he wanted to use was epistatic. This is potentially wrong, so don't quote me on it. But I think we were talking about like allelic things. We're talking about stuff that you breed it together and then you breed it again and you get that combo, like freeway or highway or whatever, and then you breed that to something else and you're getting either one or the other.
Yeah, no normals.
There. Yeah, no normals at all. With soul sucker stuff, you can get non-lesser or hidden genome offspring.
Lesser than
in there. I think if I'm remembering stuff correctly, there's so many ball pythons you go through kind of like a mind meld. But yeah, you can have we have like super GHI Inferno stuff, so it's not those two aren't allelic. Yeah, they're trying to think. Now I'm going through all the genes. There's too many genes. Come back next year when I've gone through all of the ball python genes and I can tell you what's actually allelic and what's not. No, but I mean, like a great example of sometimes how little we actually understand about like ball python genes is like the fact that black pastel or cinnamon is allelic with enchi. Like Kabelka just made that announcement, what was it, last year or something, after kind of proving that out, and enchi and cinnamon black pastel, like this been around for a little while, you know.
Did you see the balls to you video on the Enchi cinnamon bananas?
No, I don't think I did.
Holy fuck! It is such a great video.
I'll have to check it out. Yeah.
It is. This guy is showing because he's explaining how, on top of the fact that it's allelic, it also does like a supermorph, almost like not a supermorph, but you get these crazy combos. You can get multiple cinnamon enchies with a pairing, but they're going to look totally different. Some of them are going to look like the usual enchi banana, let's say, but then some of them had these like crazy oranges and fucking reds. And he pretty much explains the whole allelic situation with cinnamon and enchi, and he shows like 4 clutches. Like 4 clutches, snakes are like 800 grams, like right where they peak of like that beauty before, everyone knows. At some point, they just start.
Yeah.
It's like they get married and get lazy. It's a great video. It's got to be at least 30 minutes long, but he's just showing like, oh well, if this is this, then what's this, and what's this, and then all right, well let's put these 4 together of these combos, and he's showing like all these combos. Great fucking video. Definitely recommend.
Check it out. Yeah, I'll definitely have to check it out. I don't watch very much reptile content on YouTube, partly just because I don't really have much time these days, but there's also so much content that you can watch. You go down that rabbit hole of like, okay, I'm going to dedicate 10 minutes to watch this video, and then that video looks really cool, and then that one looks really cool. And thank you, Scales from the Crypt. That's what I was trying to formulate in my head, but it's been a long day. So Soul Sucker can replicate itself being only on one side of the pairing, and super / allelic combos can't. Thank you. That's where I was like trying to get my brain to go, but it's like you see too many ball pythons in a day, and all genes are a mist.
And earlier, somebody was asking about the Bolins. Underworld Exotics was, how's the Bolins breeding going? I think they're fishing, because you don't have the Bolins. That's over at Nerd.
That's where we've got stuff breeding, that's for sure. But breeding means nothing until you get eggs on the ground. So so we're hopeful. There's I think last year one person did it in the US. And then I think, was it last year, the beginning of this year, somebody got a clutch of 6 eggs or something like that. Epistatic being one of Kevin's favorite words. That's for damn sure. So we've got stuff breeding. Last year we had at least one that was definitely gravid, and then unfortunately had an egg rupture internally, and unfortunately that female died, because all that albumin gets in there and basically just causes everything to go septic. And we did a necropsy on her, and sure enough, 11 eggs, and one of them was punctured. So that was a massive heartbreak. Kevin basically like hid away in his house for a couple days. we didn't really see him, and understandably so. I mean, to be that close, so we're trying some stuff. So hopefully we can get something this year. But the Bolins are very much like Kevin's thing. Like Kevin has always really liked the challenging species. Obviously we do all the Amazon basin stuff, and we've got all that stuff. But yeah, those kind of projects, like Kevin dials in right on those, and like those are his babies. So we really don't, we'll check in with them like, hey, how's the Bolins? Do you need anything done with them or whatever? And usually the answer is no, don't touch those. You know, and it's like, all right, fair enough, man.
Yeah, they're very, very, very just exotic looking snake.
They're
There's just
super
something
cool,
about them.
man. They are a very cool species of snake. Personally, it's not necessarily a snake I would ever want to own. I like carpet pythons more than I like Bolin's pythons. And that might make a lot of people hate me, but Bolin's are certainly a bit different. But I like Bolin's for sure. They're just not a species that I don't go like, oh, Bolin's pythons. Like, I'm not that I'm not that person. I'm like, give me a freaking neon yellow and black carpet python, and I'm like losing my mind, you know. That's and
I want
you know,
a carpet. I do want a carpet. It's on my
radar. You need a carpet
radar.
python, dude. 100%. You need a carpet python.
But carpet, see, so the carpet, I don't know what it is, whether it's carpet or just arboreal snakes as in general.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like they need that fucking. They're just so elegant. They need that display. They need that beauty, the vines and everything. And I mean,
yeah, they are absolutely amazing. I've had carpets for years, and I've bred, I've bred all four of the common species, so coastals, jungles, centralians, and IJs. And interestingly enough, so most people who work with carpets keep them in cages, you know, not necessarily huge cages, but they keep them in like, you know, 4x2 by 18 or 4x2 by 2 cages. And when I was first keeping carpets, that's basically how I kept them. And I couldn't breed them for shit. And it was like the most frustrating thing, you know, and like I talking with people who were breeding them and whatever, and trying to get all my ducks in a row to make it happen. And I couldn't do it. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to get myself a rack and try it. You know, I know it's very taboo in carpet python land to put a carpet python in a rack, but I was like, man, I don't understand. Like I can breed, you know, I was able to breed a lot of different species of snakes, especially when I was a kid, you know, and going into young adulthood. So I was like, man, something's weird. And I kid you not, the first year of having carpets and racks, I bred every single female successfully.
really?
So yeah. So
now, were they regular racks, or they were high tubs with a PVC pipe going across?
No, I was using a 74 quart tub rack. So it's basically 4 feet deep by about 22 inches wide by 6 inches tall. It was not big at all. And I didn't necessarily like it. Like I certainly enjoyed seeing them in an enclosure, like in a cage much more.
Yeah.
But I was just doing it to try it, and had a large amount of success. I went from 0%, you know, egg production to 100% egg production that first season. And I never went back to cages after that. And so I still keep them in racks. I use FB90 drawers now. So unless the animal's massive, like I have a pretty large coastal carpet that I have in a cage. But a lot of like my I'll say mid-sized jungle stuff, they're in like FB90 drawers. But I've recently tried to be like, okay, the FB90s have a little bit more height to them. They're like 9.5 inches tall or whatever. So instead of just leaving it a blank tub with, you know, paper and a water bowl, I got like a massive piece of cork round. So it's like, I don't know, like 24 inches long cork round. And I have that kind of going at an angle in the enclosure. So it acts as both a hide box and as a platform for them to perch on. And they all love it. And I'm like, for me, it just makes me feel a little bit better because I know these animals, they want to climb, they want to utilize a little bit more of that height. And maybe it's just kind of the room that I was in that was making it challenging to breed them in. But I'm like, I don't want to go back to cages because I've had all this terrible experience with them, you know, whereas racks have been like on it for me, you know. So I don't know. But this makes me feel a little bit better having something in there for them to climb on and do whatever. So some people in the carpet community are like, he keeps his snakes in racks and blah blah blah. But I mean, all the other parameters are met. I'm sorry the cage is not 18 inches tall or taller, but it is what it is. So suck it up. But
Yeah.
But I'm super excited for carpet python breeding this year, mainly because as much as I love breeding the jungle stuff, this is the first year in 10 years that I'm breeding Centralian carpets or bredli, and I'm stoked. Last time I produced them was 2011, and I basically like gotten out of carpets for the Centralian carpets, for a while, and started amassing a collection of them again. And I have at least one female that is going to go this year. She just ovulated the other day. And I've got two other larger females that have follicles, but they're still a little hit or miss on if they're actually going to go. But I'm super stoked because they can be a little trickier to breed because they do like a cooler temp drop. So I keep them at the bottom of the rack. But man, they're so cool, man. They're one.
I like the jungles, man.
The jungles and the bredli are my two that every time I see them, I'm like, oh yes, this is so awesome. Yeah, and the jungle
that guy,
stuff.
Yeah, you vend White Plains occasionally.
Mm-hmm.
So we're neighbors. You're across we're literally opposite walls. You're on the back wall next to B&B, and then I'm the third table on the left.
Okay, all right, yeah.
That guy, when you go out of the annex room and then you make a right and a left, and he's in front of the stage with that crazy fucking tank.
He's got the tower. It's the guy with the tower, and that's Mike Curtin, man. Freaking Mike Curtin.
I want those. I want the ones with the neon light, and they're fucking fluorescent yellow and black.
Yes.
And incredible. I need that in my life.
Yeah, most of my jungle stuff has come from Mike. His stuff is insane. We just had Mike on Reptile Talk this past Wednesday, and Mike is such an awesome guy, man. I joke with him all the time because when I was a little younger and he was first really diving into the Ocelot Gene with the jungle stuff, he was producing these insane looking carpet pythons, and they were like glowing. At like a year old, they were glowing yellow, and I would go by his table and like drool. Like I would hardly say a word to the guy. I was just like staring at the carpet pythons like, oh my God, I don't understand how they're this yellow. And every time he would see me walk by, he'd be like, hey Jeremy, come here, look at that, and he'd always point at the one that said not for sale. I'm like, you bastard, don't do that.
Well, that's that display. That display is always not for sale.
Yeah.
So what morph was that one? The one that's fucking green.
So the one that's green, I don't remember.
The ones that glow yellow and black. That he has the fluorescent lights.
Those are Ocelot jungle jags. So the Ocelot gene is like a polygenic gene that's still pretty new to carpets. I mean, it's been around for about 10 years or so, but Mike is like one of the guys that's like spearheaded that entire project. And he was one of the guys that figured out you could separate it from jag. Everybody thought that you could only have an Ocelot jag. And Mike was able to separate the gene from jag and prove that you could just have a regular Ocelot without jag. And I mean, dude, I've got 4 Ocelot jungle jags that all come from Mike's lineage, and they are some of the most badass snakes that, oh my, they glow. They absolutely freaking glow. And man, I
bitch at him when he doesn't have that set up. I'm like, where are the snakes? Where are they? 'Cause, I mean, dude, it's just so, it's like, what is it? It's like a 24 by 24 by like 30 tank that he has them just in there, just cruising. And I mean, the fucking colors on that snake,
dude, it's fucking ridiculous. Oh man. Yeah. He's got some really cool stuff. So for me, that Ocelot gene, that's like my focus with the jungle stuff right now. So I've got One, I've got a male non-jag ocelot that I got from him, and then I also have a male. Yeah. Hell yeah, the non-jag ocelots. Yeah, so I've got a male non-jag ocelot. I have an ocelot zebra jag that I produced back in 2019 that I'm raising up, and then I've got 4 female ocelot jungle jags. 2 of them are breeders, and then 2 I'm raising up, and I have a feeling that I'll be keeping most of those clutches back as I really try to like dial that stuff in. But man, and then I want to try to plug it into Axanthic, because I want to take that, even though I love the neon yellow of the jag, I want to see that pattern just black and white. Just for me personally, like it's a long-term thing that I want to do just for me. So it's something I want to get it kind of going towards in the future, but I just love making badass snakes, dude. Like, it's ridiculous, that project is probably hands down my favorite carpet python project that exists. And
once I have a facility.
Huh?
Once I have a facility, I need a facility before I can even do it.
It's crazy, man. I mean, I tell you, I have about 175 snakes right now, about 16 different species, and it's a playground for me.
That's nuts. 16 species? Holy shit.
Yeah.
I have 4, and I still haven't even gotten the 4th one yet here.
Man, when I was originally keeping and breeding stuff when I was still in with my folks, I had like 20 something different species, from different species of colubrids to pythons, and I was even breeding boas and stuff. And you hear a lot of people say that if you really want to be successful in the industry as a breeder, you need to focus. You have your one species and you focus, and you can have like a couple extra like little pet projects here and there, but like you want to be able to have that one thing that you dial in on. And I'm like, I could never be that person, because
I didn't listen to that either.
Yeah, I'm like, I like too much shit, so if anybody who's listening doesn't know, and maybe Chino, you don't know either, because I don't necessarily talk about it quite as much now. When I was breeding snakes and I was still living with my folks, I had a totally different business. It was called J&D Reptiles. And I started it when I was a freshman in high school and ran it all the way through the end of my freshman semester in college. And the only reason it stopped was because the person that I kind of put in charge of maintaining everything while I was away sneakily got an adult snake in that was sick, that was never quarantined, and it killed off basically everything that I had. Because back then I was really breeding ball pythons, so I had probably like 60 or 70 ball pythons, and it basically took me totally out, like 80 grand out, like done.
Gosh.
And so I took a little bit of a hiatus until I got back from college. I got my teaching gig, and I started to be like, okay, I still had some snakes when I got out of it, but I kept it very much on the DL, and I kind of faded into the background. I got rid of all my old social media and everything, because it was all just painful. It was a big painful memory. Fresh. Yeah. So 2014, 2015 is when I started to feel comfortable kind of getting back into things. And then I kind of built up Brassman Reptiles after that. And 2016 or 2017 is when the Brassman tag kind of came on, thanks to Phil Goss from USARK at a Tinley auction. I bought a snake at the auction, and when I won it, he said, "Sold, thank you, Brassman," and because he knew that I played trumpet, because I've known Phil for years, and the name just kind of stuck. So that's how Brassman Reptiles came to be. But carpets were like my focus when I first started kind of getting back into stuff. My first big investment getting back into things was an Ocelot jungle jag from Mike Curtin. It was $1,000, and I was like, "Yep, let's go. Here we go.
I need this."
And I was like, "Let's do it." And the big thing I took away from the original business 26 different species, not in a huge space, but I mean, I was breeding corn snakes, Honduran milk snakes, Nelson's milk snakes, Pueblo milk snakes, California king snakes, Splendida king snakes. I was breeding ball pythons, carpet pythons, BCI. I was breeding bearded dragons, leopard geckos, spotted pythons, children's pythons. I like the gambit. I was like breeding everything because I liked everything.
You're breeding those little bastards, children's pythons.
Oh, I love those things. Antaracea are amazing. They're assholes, but they're amazing.
When my buddy that I linked up when I first started doing expos, and he was selling bugs at my table, had a children's, and I did what most people think. Oh, it's children's. It's a nice little python.
Oh, yeah, it's no big deal. Yeah.
So now I'm like, Junior must have been like 8 years old, maybe even 7. And I'm like, Junior, let the thing bite you. And my buddy Sam's like, no, don't do that.
You don't want that to do that. Yeah.
And he's like, all right, well, how about you let him bite you first? So I let him bite me. I went to let him bite me. He went to, instead of biting my hand, he bit the sleeve of my hoodie.
Okay, yeah.
And that little fucker wouldn't let go.
Yeah. Oh, there, dude. I have a picture on my Facebook. You got to go through all my ridiculous pictures, but I have a picture on Facebook of my children's python trying to constrict my cell phone because I was trying to take a picture of it. And it launched out of the cage, grabbed my phone, wrapped up my phone. I took a picture of it on my buddy's phone and then posted that onto my Facebook. I was like, breed Antaracea, they said. They're cute, they said.
It's crazy. I had no idea how vicious they were. And I remember he got tired of it because it was just so vicious.
Yeah.
And we brought it to the show, and we had a customer like get loud because we wouldn't let him hold the children's python, and we were like, "I'm warning." He was like, "I'm warning you right now. This snake is an asshole. It's gonna bite you.
Yeah,
it's gonna bite you. I recommend if you're gonna get it, you better have some experience." And you better have a bottle of scope near you.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to let go. You got to put a little scope in its mouth, and then it goes, ah! And then it fucking backs off of you,
Yeah.
Marshall, don't worry about it. You can give me another beer. Check the printers, please. Put in the work. We gotta. I'm trying to get this quote, this order done. It's 400 rings.
Yeah.
It's 400 setups. We have 300 rings to print. So
that's a lot.
We're like around the clock. I want to get it done because I'm bartering. I'm trading. Well, some of it's going to be cash, but I'm trading for rodent food. So he's going to bring over, a pallet and a half of rodent food. And it's nice because that'll last me fucking 3 months, 3-4 months of not having to get rodent food is extremely convenient,
Yes. Oh, for sure.
But we have I'm right now I'm just using the doggy bag from Tractor Supply. And I'm like, man, I want to try to get this done so that I can get my new rodent food before we go to Arlington.
Oh, yeah.
It's already down the road, we're already 10 days away. Or not even 2 weeks away.
It's crazy. It really is crazy.
I know.
Spotted pythons. Dude, if you can find Cape York spotted pythons, that would be insane. No, I can't make it, unfortunately. So I was in North Carolina the weekend of the New Hampshire show. I was out of town. I was in North Carolina, but I was out for a week down there. So trying to get another chunk of time off after just recently coming back, and I have to go to Detroit for a week in May. So I couldn't ask Kevin for more time off. I wouldn't feel right doing that. So yeah. So otherwise I would 100% be there. So fingers crossed. Maybe next time.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully I'll be able to go to more, but I'm definitely going to this one, which we're so excited about. We're just kind of trying to line everything up. The hardest part is finding a damn dog sitter. I can't believe it.
You'd think something so simple.
Like we got one person that's going to come by, well, because we're going to be there for 5 days. So one person's going to come and feed the snakes. I mean, not feed the snakes, feed the rodents and fill those hoppers up heavy.
Yep.
And check for eggs because they're the only person that's capable of pulling snakes off of eggs. Because of course, this week I had 5 females go upside down on me, all uncomfortable, and you can see their bulges, and I'm like, all right, you're doing the lay eggs dance, hopefully.
Yeah.
But I been down that road before. Sometimes they'll do that for like a month, up to laying the eggs. It's like,
yeah, I know.
So
They don't make the wait easy.
my boa is even worse. This will be my first year ever breeding boas. I have a possible super hypo, possible het albino Colline, and I bred a junglo to it. So I'm like, perfect. Time to prove some shit out,
There you go. Man, I enjoyed. So I bred BCI for 2 or 3 years. Nothing crazy, just albino, sunglow stuff. But man, they were really cool. That whole breeding process. I was so very used to breeding pythons and colubrids. I was like, well, I want to try something different. Boas or whatever. And I remember messing with Brian Barczyk. Brian and I go way back too. And because he's always talked about, especially if you've watched his videos way back in the day, he's always talked about not being the greatest at breeding boas. Yeah, man, they can be kind of tricky and whatever. And so my first season breeding boas, I had 100% success. And I just remember being like, hey, I don't know, Brian, these things aren't that hard to breed, dude. I'm crushing it. He's like, yeah, shut up. And he's like, I got some babies. And I'm like, yeah, but how many slugs did you get?
Oh shit, you were really digging in. You went in and turned.
I like to joke around. For anybody who like really gets to know me, like I like to be a sarcastic, jokey kind of guy, man. Like when I was growing up, especially like with my first business and everything, being a kid trying to run a business, breeding and working with reptiles, I took myself way too seriously and was always the like, this is business and this is how we do things and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And I got to a point, like in my early 20s when I was like, you know what, man, I don't have shit to prove. I was breeding all these different species pretty young. Not to be like, oh no, you can't tell me shit, because I learned from everybody, but I was like, I don't have fucking shit to prove, man. If you can't fucking handle me being a brash human being sometimes, then just fucking deal with it and fuck off.
Yeah.
that was kind of basically where I ended up at. And you can ask Rob. If you talk to Rob, ask him what it's like to be at a Carpet Fest auction with me after a couple beers. That's
I didn't get to I communicate more with you than Rob. I've only messaged him a couple times.
Yeah.
And at the show, he was like Hollywood, man.
Dude, he has
draws a crowd, man.
Dude, it's like, oh, it's Rob. And I love that, because for me, like, I've known Rob a long time too. And Rob actually saved my ass when I was moving to the Boston area for college, because I went to Berkeley and was like, okay, cool. I got into the school. I'm in Boston. I have to move to Boston. 2 weeks before I had to move out, I had no place to live. I couldn't afford to dorm because it was an extra $15,000 to dorm on the campus, and I couldn't afford that. So I was at a White Plains show, and Rob was there, and I hadn't seen Rob in years. And so we were just catching up, and he's like, how's things and blah blah blah. And I was like, oh man, I'm doing all right. I'm here having a good time talking reptiles, but I'm stressing because I'm going to college and I got no place to stay. And he's like, oh, where are you going? So I'm going to Berkeley and blah blah blah. And he's like, oh man, you should have reached out to me, man. We got a spare room at my mom's place. Let me talk to her, and she'll call you, whatever. So I actually lived with Rob when I was in college. He was, so he and I go, but he saved my ass. But
he's a cool dude.
He's so freaking awesome, man, and he deserves all of the positivity and everything that surrounds him, because he's such an amazing human being, and I consider him one of my close friends. And man, I just love the dude, man. Like he is off work, like he doesn't work at Nerd on Thursdays and Fridays, and those are probably the saddest days of the week for me, because every other day of the week he's like Mr. Energy, and like he's like, yeah, man, like let's get this shit done. And I feed off of that, like I'm like, I love the positivity and the good vibes and stuff. So yeah, Thursdays and Fridays, if he like walks through the hall, like because some of his animals are at Nerd, so if he walks through the hall, I'm like, Rob, what's up? Come say something happy to me so I can be happy.
I worked with my last job. I had a guy like that, Junior.
Mm-hmm.
He's like a mid 60s guy.
Yep.
Off the boat from Puerto Rico.
Mm-hmm.
The happiest guy in the world, funniest guy in the world, can turn anything into fun. I mean, me and him are emptying fucking garbage cans around the hotel, having the time of our lives,
Hell yeah.
And I gotta say, I'm bummed I don't work with Junior no more, because Junior, at the end of my career with this company, they split us up too. So we only worked 3 days, because my 2 days off he worked, and his 2 days off I worked.
Oh,
so
man.
yeah, they fucking whatever. My old boss is a bitch. I hope she lives a nice, long, miserable life. But yeah, no, he was. I saw him, and I was like, I said what's up to him, and he was just swamped. It's like the nerd table was so fucking busy. And then Kevin was around, and you can see people were all like, like when I found out Kevin was there, my buddy Jonathan from Castro's Constrictors is like, Kevin's here. Get back to our area now. Like messages me. I'm like, all right, I'll see you later. I fucking run all the way across. I'm like, don't see him.
Yeah.
He's like, dude, he's right there. He's right there. And like, oh, it's the sun. He's a tall guy with a long ponytail. It's hard to fucking miss him in a crowd,
True. It's very true.
So it was an experience, because that was the 4th time I've done that show. Mm-hmm. And I don't think I've ran into any of you guys at that show.
Yeah, I know. So like the New Hampshire show, not this past one, but the one before that we didn't do. And then I think we did the 2 prior to that, but the shows are hectic, man. Like so Nerd doesn't do much in the way of shows, like at all, period. We do the Manchester show because it's 30 minutes down the road, and then that was honestly, for the longest time, that was like the only show Nerd was doing, was just the Manchester, New Hampshire show. And it was mainly because like Kev didn't care about doing shows. He's like, man, we got so many animals, we got all this other shit to do. Like, the shows are stressful. You take a day to pack, and then you've got the show for a whole day, and then you've got a day of unpacking, basically, with the amount of stuff that we bring. So it's like you're down 3 days, and a couple staff members to do all that. And he's like, man, we got all these animals to take care of, all this stuff to do. We can make, not to sound ridiculous, but it's like we can make sales from the facility, like it's not like the show is the only place we can make sales. So, and of course the stress to the animals and all of that stuff. So
overall everything, it's
so he's just like, we don't really need to do shows. And so the October before COVID, so it was at 2019, we got him to do the October Tinley show. And the biggest reason we pushed him for that was because we had been pushing our social media so much, because we basically went from about 15,000 subscribers on YouTube to about 100,000 subscribers, or just under 100,000 subscribers in about a year.
Wow.
On YouTube. It was a massive push for us. So we had all of this publicity, and then we were like, man, like we don't ever really go anywhere or do anything, because we can, we're pretty much self-sustaining at the facility. But we were like, man, it would be awesome if we could get to Tinley. You know,
I
so
wanted
we were
to.
like, we were bugging him about going to Tinley. Like, dude, we gotta go. We gotta go. We've been putting all this effort in to be public on social media. Like, you need to show your face to the public, you know, and
Yeah.
Tinley's the spot to do it. You know, it really is, you know. And finally when he agreed, it was like, oh my god, yes, you know. So then it was like, get a hold of Brian Potter and be like, Nerd's coming, like, you know, let's get everything situated. And he called Animal Plastics to have a bunch of new show displays made and all that stuff. And we made it like this big to do, you know. We're like, we jam-packed our show displays with all this badass shit that nobody even knew we had that existed. You know, and we were like, we're just coming to show off a little bit. You know, obviously we need to make money because it's an expense to do all that, but we're like, we're here to show you that Nerd is still freaking here. Because, you know, Kevin hadn't done Tinley in like 7 years.
Holy shit.
So it was like, we were just kind of like existing, you know, and there were some people that even came to the table and they were like, oh, we didn't even know Nerd still existed, you know, because we just kind of, it's not that we ceased to exist, but we just weren't out in social media land. And if you're not doing social media, unfortunately, in today's age, you don't exist because so many other people are doing social media. Like, the only people that are going to find out about you then goes down to word of mouth, or they've got to, you know, stumble across a piece of your content and hope to God that they search to see if you're still around. So that Tinley was really like a push to just get out there. And that was also the time that I realized just how much my job was going to be as much about managing Nerd as well as managing Kevin. Not from the, oh my God, Kevin's a crazy person running around a million times a minute, which he 100% is. But also was like, you know, Kevin was there, and then all of the social media fangirly people, whatever, were coming over to talk to him. And, you know, Kevin's got crazy ADHD, and ADD. So he's all over the place, and he gets overwhelmed. He can get overwhelmed really quickly, especially when it comes to people, you know, and just like crowds of people around him and everything. So it kind of became my job to be like, okay, so you want to talk to Kevin, we're going to figure a time that you can do that, because you can't just go over there and do it, you know. So I basically had to put the figurative red velvet rope around Kevin and be like, you want to talk to him, you talk to me first, you know.
Oh shit. You have sunglasses on?
No, I should have, but you know, I was just like, man, it really was crazy. You know, we had like Brian Cusco and Cusco. Okay, so Cusco, I love Brian Cusco to death. Shout out to Brian Cusco. Cusco got Kevin's attention because he like ran through the show on this freaking like one wheel hoverboard kind of thing, and Kevin like skateboards or whatever. So he was like, "What is that?" You know, and like so that's how like him. I have a video of Kevin trying out that one wheel hoverboard thing, and he's like
signature Cusco one wheel.
Yeah, he's like stumbling on it and like falling or whatever. And I got a clip of the video where he stumbles and he like almost bumps into this table where this vendor has this great display of acrylic displays. And like I see the look on the vendor's face of like, I swear to God, Kevin, if you fuck up my shit. I was like, oh, please stop right now. But you know, so anyway, so Cusco got his in with Kevin from a freaking one wheel, but
that's awesome.
It was great. But you know, then we had like Carrie and Barrows from KB Reptiles, you know, who I was talking to, and they're like, man, like we'd love to talk to Kevin and, you know, get a chance to interview Kevin for YouTube and whatever. And I was like, cool, I'll make it happen, you know, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, Saturday, the beginning of Saturday was basically me going to Kevin and being like, okay, bud, are you ready to go do a bunch of things today? And he was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, well, here at 11:30, I have you over at this booth to do this thing. And then at 12:30, you're going to be over here. And then at 1 o'clock, I need you over here to go meet with these people. And then at 1:45, you're going to be over here. I was basically his PR person for like the rest of Tinley. And then Sunday evening, like towards the end of the show, was basically me trying to organize with people times for them to either come to Nerd to do collaboration things, or planning times for people to do like Skype interviews with Kevin or whatever. And it was chaos, man. Like, it really was, because now all these people, you know, we had like Garrett Hartle, who, like, I think this was one of the best things for my staff. So we basically brought almost the entire Nerd staff to Tinley, which was great and terrible all at the same time. But a lot of our staff, especially at that time, they were younger, you know, so they're like into reptiles, but they hadn't been in it for very long. And so they're looking up to all the social media people. They're looking up to Garrett Hartle. They're looking up to this person. They're looking up to that person. And like, Garrett came to the table to just look at what retics we had and whatever. And Kevin goes over to him, and Garrett like shakes his hand and is like, Kevin, man, it's such an honor to meet you. You're the reason I got into doing this retic stuff. Like, you're one of the big reasons I got into doing this retic stuff.
Nice.
And like, the staff were like, what? Because they're like, how does anybody know who this guy is? How does anybody know who Kevin is? You know, because it's, the mystique goes away a little bit when you see it every day, when you're around it every day, and you know, it becomes your normal. But to everybody else, it's very much not normal. You know.
Yeah.
So, you know, but you have like, we're going over to like Ozzy Boyd's table and looking at stuff, and you know, Ozzy's joking with Kevin like, man, I can't believe you're actually walking away from your fucking table, Mr. Big Shot, and blah blah blah. And you know, and they're just like taking their little jabs at each other. And the best part about that, and I think it's in the video we did, Kevin's like holding this really crazy ball python, and he sniffs the ball python, and we're looking at him like, what the fuck? What are you doing? And he's like, oh, I smell pee, and I was trying to see if it was just coming from the snake or whatever. And without missing a beat, Ozzy jumps on and is like, that's right, Kevin McCurley is sniffing my balls. And I was like, oh, got him.
Oh,
damn.
shit.
You know, and after that, Kevin very quickly put the snake down and walked away from Ozzy's table. But you know,
fuck you.
Yeah, but you know, I mean, it was great, you know, and just having all of those people come to Kevin and, you know, to express their gratitude for what, you know, he meant to them. For the staff, was probably one of the greatest things ever, you know, because they started to understand that mystique, and you know, it's like all these people that they watch and pay attention to are coming over to pay homage, essentially, to a pioneer. You know, because again, being there every day all the time, that mystique fades a little bit because it becomes your normal, you know. You know, because I mean, for me, having met Kev, you know, 12 years ago or whatever, that Nerd was almost like my college for reptiles. You know, I was coming up here and asking the dude a million questions and trying to learn about as much as I possibly could, be it ball pythons or retics or whatever, you know. So for me, that mystique has always stayed with me, even after being here for almost 2 years, just because like this place meant that much to me. You know, it was where I learned so much stuff. You know, a lot of our other staff members are like, oh yeah, I go to the pet store on the first floor all the time, and I'm just here, you know, whatever, and you do whatever, and you know, find, oh, you're hiring, oh yeah, I kind of like to work here, you know, I'll put in a job application and whatever. But there's a little bit of that disconnect of what that place means to the industry, you know.
Oh hell yeah.
You know, and
I want to go there. I really want to go.
You got to come up, man. You got to.
I really want to. I drive a real shitty. One of my cars doesn't work. My other one's a piece of shit. So I only drive 100 miles because AAA will tow my ass home without charging me. So, you know, now granted, it is 2021. I always projected 2021 was going to be the big year, but it's turned into 2022 will be a better year, and I'll have more funds to have, you know, PVC do-it-yourself racks, as well as a vehicle that if I want to drive to Tinley, I could be like, turn the fucking key and go, you know. But we will talk, because I would love to go out there, and maybe Mike can bring the kids and bring the whole DMJ family, and we'll just rent a car. We'll rent a car and drive out in the morning and
Hell yeah.
hang out, drive back home. Because it's not bad. It's 3 hours. New
Yeah,
Hampshire's
that's
3
not
hours
bad at
from
all.
me.
That's not bad at
No,
all.
it's only bad if you drive a piece of shit. But if we get a rental, we'll be good. Because I'm like, you guys work with so much cool shit, and Kevin with like such a pioneer with just the monitors alone. Just that
Yeah.
level of where he's at. I always wanted an Asian water monitor. I'm in the wrong fucking state because I can't have
Yeah.
one.
Very
I mean, I
much so.
can, but I don't have any illegal animals and don't plan on having any illegal animals.
Yeah.
But it's just intriguing, like you guys work with so many. It's I have ADHD, so
Mhm.
I understand. It's funny because you see these breeders that have ADHD, and we all are all like everywhere.
Yeah.
Like you were saying earlier, like focusing in on one breed,
Mhm.
and I was like, well, I'll focus on ball pythons, but I really like these crested geckos,
Yeah.
So then that's where, I'm getting crested geckos, and then everyone's like, well, why are you working with this and that? And I'm like, well, then it kind of worked out because your ball pythons, especially when I first started breeding, I was going old school, doing temp
Mhm.
drops. So of
Mhm.
course, all my clutches drop at once. They all go at once. Everything's all gone.
Mhm.
Where it was like the breeding season was like a 5-month period, and then you have like the 7 months of shit, just cleaning snake shit and feeding them, and cleaning
Yeah.
bins. So the crested geckos kind of open that up,
Mhm.
because you can't sell them till they're like 4 months old because they're so fucking tiny, and so it's all year round. You're
Right.
producing inventory for expos,
Yeah.
and then that just expanded into, okay, well, now I want lychees. Now I want gargoyles. And then, oh, these fucking morning geckos are pretty cool. And I already have the tokays. So,
Yeah.
and now I'm getting two bloods.
Ah, there you go.
It's Gomez, man. Sal, I would consider it's funny. It's funny to say it out loud, but Sal, I would say, is one of my best friends, right?
Yeah, sounds great.
I've
Yeah.
only met him once. Only met once, but we talk hours at a time. At least, throughout the week, we talk for hours. And
Yeah.
I really always wanted a blood, man. I just something about that T positive, fucking red, crazy looking blood python.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and a customer of mine that actually drove 3 hours for two colonies of African softers.
Oh geez.
I think it was two, maybe it was four. I don't remember. Either way, um, he was like, oh, he bought a collection out,
Mhm.
and it came with two bloods. So it came with a matrix, a male matrix het T positive,
Mhm.
and a female T positive. The male's 1,000 grams. They're both 2 years old. They're a little bit smaller than where they should be.
Mhm.
Um, but this person was like a pet owner, wasn't a breeder, wasn't
Yeah.
feeding as a breeder. Um, and the female is 2,000 grams. And he was like, I don't know if you're interested in them. It's your call, but we could work something out with store credit in the future. If you want the two bloods, I don't want them. They're yours. So when I get back from Arlington, he's quarantining them already.
Mhm.
So I'm like, fuck it. You know what? We'll keep them in the quarantine. We'll double dose. I'll quarantine them here just to, balance everything out. And
Yeah.
now I'm like, fuck, man. Now I just added another species, and another species. Yeah. So,
Yep. Yeah,
but they're
man,
so
that's how
nice,
it
man.
starts. This is how it starts, and then it doesn't end.
I know. I'm already about to quit on the hog nose. That hog nose I still haven't gotten to eat
Really?
since we talked a couple weeks. Oh fuck, my camera just turned off.
Oh no.
Hold on 1 second. This fucking camera plays stupid sometimes. It's not the camera, it's this new computer. My 7-year-old computer died.
Oh man.
And HD. Am I back on yet? What
No,
the
not yet.
fuck? Well, I'm gonna try to work on this while we're. So there you go. Now I'm back.
Yeah.
So I tried the tuna juice.
Mm-hmm.
I did not get a frog yet. I was looking to get a frog in New Hampshire, and I couldn't. I just. I don't know. Maybe it's just me being cheap. I feel like prices inflated with COVID with reptiles too.
Oh yeah,
Not with
probably
my
so. Yeah.
not with my collection, but I want to sell snakes, not hold on to them.
Yeah.
I'm selling them at the market price that I think is fair.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like seems like every Pac-Man. Like I was like, oh fuck it, I'll get a Pac-Man. Because just sneak behind the Pac-Man, rub the pinky on it.
Right.
And I couldn't find a Pac-Man under $55. Like
Really? I didn't even know
White
they
Plains
went up that much. Wow.
in White Plains, as soon as we come out of the annex room right on the right, that guy's got like every fucking morph for $10.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
So
That's
I'm
funny.
close to going to the Asian market. I got an Asian market in Albany that's like fucking nuts. That is like third world, like awesome. It's like Chinatown all over again, man. You go up to someone, you say, "Oh, where can I find egg roll wraps?" And they say, "I don't speak English," in perfect English. They tell you, and they walk away from you. Yeah, it's great. I love it.
Damn.
But they have a polycarbonate tub that's like 4 feet by 2 feet, and then probably about 18, 20 inches tall. And it's just filled with bullfrogs, massive bullfrogs, size of
oh shit.
a softball. Yes.
Damn.
So I'm thinking about just getting one and just making a setup.
Go for it.
Or I'm thinking of just eating it and keeping all the pieces and then, having sense so I could just have like little chunks of frog in the fridge, in the freezer, Because at DMJ Reptiles,
the life
we
of a freaking reptile breeder.
We do eat animals here. We have a rabbit breeding program, and I love frog, man. Me and my father, we would go into the market and buy. They're like $5 a frog, and they're huge. We'll buy like 4 of them.
Damn.
And my mother would get pissed because me and my father would butcher them. And she wanted them to come back like all packed, all nice and ready to eat.
Oh,
when she sees like a fucking giant fish bag filled with like 5 frogs in it, she wasn't a fan.
Yeah.
Speaking about my father actually turned 89 years old today.
Oh man, happy birthday to him.
Holy shit. I can't believe it. The animal is still going strong.
That's awesome.
Yeah, see, Dave wants blood pythons too. There's something about them.
So I got my first blood. I got him probably more than 10 years ago. It was more than 10 years ago because 2011. There you go. 2011. Shit. It had to be. Or man, okay, I'm all confused now. It was a long time ago. Regardless, it was a long time ago. I got this blood python, and that was when like nobody knew shit about keeping bloods and short tails, man. Like that market was so niche. It was like the Barkers and maybe a handful of others that were even just keeping them, let alone breeding them. And I got my hands on this big wild caught male blood python, and the vendor was like, he's evil, and I was like, yeah, I was all happy. And dude, that snake hated every ounce of my being. And now I understand I was keeping him wrong. I was keeping it too hot, too much humidity, just making life very uncomfortable. But back then, that's what everybody expected out of blood pythons is, it's a python species from Southeast Asia. They essentially are swamp snakes, so you keep them hot and you keep them wet. And amazingly, they don't like that, So, but I remember having that one blood python thingy was the most amazing snake ever, and it was a fucking nightmare. Every time having to clean that enclosure was like, how many times am I going to get bit this time? And it was terrible. But the funny story with that snake. Now my folks were very, very supportive of my reptile keeping habits, amazingly, and thankfully they were. My mom did not like the blood python. Was not a fan of it.
No, not a fan of a vicious, large snake.
No, nope, not at all. Anything that I had that was a wild caught at the time that was aggressive, like my Amazon tree boas and all that stuff, like not a fan of it at all. And so anyway, so I hit up my buddy Adam Harris down in Connecticut, and I was like, "Hey man, are you vending the White Plains show?" And he's like, "Yeah." So I was like, "I've got this blood python I need to sell. Like I need to get it out of here. You know, it's a demon, and I'm kind of all set. Do you mind if I bring it and put it on your table?" And he's like, "Yeah, man, no worries. You know, as long as you got something that it can be in, you know, I don't have anything large enough." And I was like, "Nope, that's fine. I got a big clear container it can go in so people can stare at it and it can launch itself at them. And we'll be good to go." So I bring it, and my mom, love her to death, was like, "Oh, the blood python is cooler now because it's not in the heat of the cage." You know, it was like, I think it was like a fall show or whatever. So it was cooler in the building. And she decided to take it out and hold it because it had some stuck shed on it. So she wanted to get the stuck shed off. Now, my mom, she would help me with my berms, my carpet pythons. She would help me with whatever, so she was in it, like my mom was in it. But I told her, I was like, you don't want to deal with this blood python. Like, just leave it alone. So I'm running around. This was the first show that Brian Barczyk did at White Plains back then. So I think that was 2009, if I remember correctly. It had to be 2009 because that's the date that keeps coming to my brain. So anyway, so we'll say it's 2009 because I'm 90% sure that's accurate. And so I'm running around talking to everybody at the show because I thought I was hot shit. And I get a phone call. "Can you come back to the table?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So I'm thinking like Adam needed to step away or whatever, or somebody had a question about the blood python that they needed me to answer or whatever. So I'm like moseying my way back to the table, whatever, talking to people along the way. I'm having a good time. And I get back to the table and my mom just has this bloody rag over her face.
Oh,
and I'm like, "What's going on?" And I looked at my mom and I was like, "You touched the blood python, didn't you?" And she was like, "Uh-huh."
Oh my God.
This thing railed her across the face. If she was not wearing her glasses, she would have lost her eyeball. Because it was like full out across the face. That's not the funny part. The funny part is I laughed my ass off, and it was like the biggest "I told you so" I've ever been able to give my mother. So I told you not to touch that damn thing, whatever. Sup, motherfuckers. So my mom gets her face all cleaned off, whatever. I marched her right over to Barczyk's table because this was 2009, because this was like Snake Bites TV. They're getting bit by snakes all the time, and Chewy was at that show.
Oh shit.
And I marched my mom right over to that fucking table, and I was like, "Chewy, blood python to the face, beat that bitch."
Oh shit.
You can ask Barczyk to this day, do you remember Jeremy from Brassman Reptiles when his mom got bit in the face by that blood python? He will 100% say yes. That was so freaking great. And man, in 2011, I went to Barczyk's place, and this is when he still had his big building, the 15,000 square foot building. And he gives us the tour and everything, and my mom's like, "Whatever it is, I just don't want to see blood pythons." That was her only request. Like, "I don't want to see blood pythons." But 3 weeks after that show, she pulled a tooth out of her forehead. She had a tooth stuck in her forehead, and it popped out 3 weeks later. But yeah, shout out to my mom. But yeah, she took that bite to the face like a freaking champ. But yeah, blood pythons
Yeah,
are great.
yeah, and that's the thing. Like, so we had a rescue short tail,
Mhm.
just normal short tail, and I didn't have the rack space for it.
Mhm.
I had it in one of those Sterilite 60 quart tubs, the annoying ones with the wheels that I
Yeah,
popped
yeah,
off.
yeah.
And it was like a makeshift. It was a storage shelf on a rack that I did.
Yeah.
And I was literally using duct tape to hold down the edges so the thing can't get out. Um, so one day we have kittens at the time,
Yeah.
and we're like, our kittens are funny because like they would let us know when a snake didn't eat its rat because you see the cat like hopping forward and backwards and air fucking slapping, And then one morning on a rack, a 41 quart, tub rack that had no tub. We're watching the
Oh
kid, and the
boy.
kitten's like bouncing around in front of this fucking thing. And I'm
Oh.
like, what the fuck is this thing doing? There's nothing there. So I'm like,
Oof.
Junior, take a look. And Junior puts his head down. And this is like the second shelf from the ground.
Mhm.
So, it's easier for a little kid to just look. He looks and he's like, oh my God, Mater is right there on the heat pad. And holy
Oof.
shit, Mater was on the heat pad. And Mater was, I think when I weighed her, she weighed like 15 pounds when I got her.
Shit.
She was a
Yeah.
big girl.
That's a big one. Yeah.
Um, but the customer that had it, they said, they kept on bringing it to the vet. And the vet was saying it was having a respiratory infection.
Mhm.
And they were treating a respiratory infection for months and months, month
Mhm.
visit, vet visit. It's like, she's like, oh, this, just so it has chronic respiratory infections, this and that. So I get the snake and I'm thinking respiratory infection like ball python, if it's drooling, if it's wheezing, if
Mhm.
it's, I feel like when ball pythons get RIs, I feel like I could tell their tone, their sheds are different. The tone, the color
Mhm.
of their skin seems a little bit almost slimy, like moist looking.
Mhm.
And I'm looking at this snake going, this snake looks perfectly healthy. And you know how like the short tails will grunt or it
Yeah.
sounds like a hiss?
Yep.
So they were misdiagnosing this snake for like almost 9 months
Ah.
for a respiratory infection. Because
When
I'm like,
instead
what
it's
the
just
fuck?
vocalizing. Yeah.
It's just vocalizing. But Mater was a shit. But my buddy breeds them and he was like, what are you doing with this male? You don't need this male. And I'm like, well, it kind of escaped last week. Like if you want it, fucking, you can have it.
Yeah.
And he's got it now. But
Dang.
I couldn't turn down the blood. I mean, T positive. It's just those
Yeah.
reds. You
Yeah. You know
you,
what?
you
What
don't
did
see
it
that in
for?
blood python yet.
No. What did it for me with Bloods was I remember going on VPI's website, seeing some of the first magpies, the super golden eyes. And I was like, oh my God, that's the coolest blood python I think I've ever seen. And that was when golden eyes were still easily $4,500. And I was like, I can't afford that at all. And the when I decided, I don't even remember how many years ago, 3.5, 4 years ago, when I decided I was going to get into bloods and short tails again. Um, I think I had already had a pair of Borneo short tails that I picked up at Tinley from Matt Minatola. I was like, these are cool, but I want a golden eye blood python. Like that's as close to the epitome as I can get because the magpies were still crazy expensive, like $5,000 or whatever. And I was like, I just can't justify spending that kind of money.
Yeah.
So I ended up finding a magical looking golden eye from Nick Bottini over at Cold Blooded Earth. And it's like $1,200 or whatever. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe they're affordable
Affordable. Yeah.
compared to what they used to be all those years ago. So I hit him up and I was like, dude, is that thing still available? And he was like, yeah, man, it's still here. And I was like, I need it. Like I just sent him the money, and I still have him. He's great, and he's a puppy dog, dude. I can literally pet him under the chin. I can, smush his face. He doesn't give a single shit. And it's the coolest freaking thing. I posted a photo on my Instagram probably about a year or so ago where he's like sitting on I've got one of those little Rubbermaid carts in my room that's got all my like sanitizing gear and
Your
all that shit on
sprayer.
it.
Yeah.
And I got a picture of him like periscoping on the cart. And it was like it was probably one of the best pictures I had ever posted of him. And people were like, "How'd you get him to do that? How'd you get him to do that?" And I was literally just rubbing his chin, and he just kept raising his head and raising his head and raising his head, and then he just froze. And I was like,
that's sick.
"Oh my god, that's the coolest picture ever! Like this snake is fucking badass." And I just love that snake, But that to me, at some point, I'll breed him and I'll make magpies of my own. But for me, he is the epitome of what a golden eye should look like. So for me, like I just want to breed them and make more badass golden eyes because I'll keep them all. I don't even give a shit. Like I'll keep every single freaking one of them just because I think that is like the coolest blood python. And it's amazing to me that blood pythons are still being imported in the numbers that they are, and certainly less than what they used to be. But you can still get wild caught golden eyes. You can still get imported albinos and stuff like that. The albino stuff is less common, but you can still get imports pretty readily. Which is shocking because there's quite a few more people that are working with them and producing amazing captive bred animals. But at the same time, it still leaves a little bit of mystique there because it's like, hey, you never know what new stuff might come in, or you never know what gene might be attached to a different line of golden eye or something that comes in from the wild. So there's still a little bit of playroom in blood pythons. But that's one of the, like Rob was just talking about this on a podcast the other day. I think it was when he was with Cusco. Like why? So Rob really prefers Borneo shorttails over blood pythons, and somebody had asked why, and he was like, "Well, blood pythons, that market's a lot more volatile just because there's imported animals still coming in, so you can get them fairly inexpensively, especially if you're willing to deal with the attitude, But Borneo's nothing's being exported out of Borneo, So whatever we've got, and if you don't have something from that lineage, then you don't have it, and it's as simple as that. So there's a little bit more ability to focus on that on that market. But that's right, Nathaniel, you did ask that. But yeah, I mean it's they're just such a cool species, man. Like it's another species. Blood and shorttails is just another species that I have a lot of that I maybe don't need quite as many that I have now, but I just love them, dude. There's just too many snakes that I love, man.
I got into them. The reason why I was like all for getting that blood was because I was like, well, the issue I run into is I retire 200 breeder rats a year.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have anything that eats them.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I'll get a blood. And then I find out that, you can't even feed them. If you feed an adult, like that snake was huge. And I couldn't even feed it jumbos because you would see that like they retain all that weight of what they eat.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is probably not the best decision for retiring 200 rats a year, considering that I'm feeding this thing like, I mean, there's a couple. I was feeding it once a month, a large rat, and I'm seeing like weight gain to a point where we're borderline obesity with the animal, and I'm like, okay, well, I guess this month I'm feeding a medium,
Yeah. Yeah. If you got to feed off that many retired breeder rats, you'd need like 50 blood pythons. Well, you just need 50 blood pythons. They're getting four giant ass meals a year.
Yeah.
So I mean, dude, it's time to start fucking collecting blood pythons. That's what I'm hearing.
You know what? I found my next door neighbor at the New Hampshire show. Actually, I was talking to him about how I have all these retired rats, And I was like, well, $3 a pop, man. I put them on Craigslist. I can't even sell them for $3 a pop. He's like, well,
Dude.
if you bring them to the show for $3 a pop, I'll take every fucking jumbo that you can give me. So last show worked out because I actually had 70. And so I started the show, hotel paid, trip paid, table paid because I split the table.
Yep.
So I'm like, now I got it. Now I got a spot. So I'm like, all right, because we're in rotation right now. I got like 8 more colonies that I need to rotate. So it's fucking 40 rats. So and that takes up a lot of freezer space. So I'm like, oh, June. The next show is in June. Are you gonna be around for in June? You think?
What do you know the dates offhand?
I don't. I just know it's June.
Okay. I think I will be around for that because I think it's the end of June, if I remember correctly. So I should be there for that. I'm supposed to be in LA in June, but it's like early or mid June. So if the show is at the end of June, I will be there for sure.
Yeah, because I love that show. I mean, well, granted, I have to love it because the 2 shows I do in New York are canceled.
Yeah, they're just not happening. Yeah.
And I was so happy when they were talking about that one in Nanuet. Because if they were going to do that one in Nanuet, I know that Macy's, it's a huge Macy's with a huge parking lot. Every variable is awesome, so it would have made out for a nice show. It had a high ceiling, and I mean, the annex room.
Yep. Yeah.
Fucking annex room, man. I mean,
yeah, that
if it wasn't for Castro's Constrictors next door to me, like we both want to go on the main floor, but we're both like, we want to go together. We've been neighbors for 5 years at that show.
Yeah.
The annex room, how it's summertime, it's fucking hot as shit. In wintertime, it's cold as hell. And they can't keep that room climate proper.
Yeah, the other problem with that room is it took them forever to really promote it well. Even not just prior to the show, but even like during the show, just telling people like, hey, you can go over here and see other cool animals, because for the average person that's just like, oh, something cool with reptiles, or like, I just need to buy one thing for my reptiles. They're in and out, or they might do a quick walkthrough of the show, but I mean, they had like one little like easel sign, like right
they
by
had
the
easel
walkway,
for a while.
and like, more reptiles this way, and it's like you were walking past that. If you were like laser focused on trying to get whatever it is that you need, you're walking right past that and not paying any attention. Or if fucking what's his name just filled up the freaking Mist King system or whatever the hell he's got there, you're not even gonna see it. It's just overtaken by all the mist. What the hell is going on?
I definitely noticed a difference ever since they started hanging the signs on the second level.
Yeah,
I feel like that
generated some more traffic.
Oh yeah, but even so, I mean, it's tough because it's one way in, one way out. So like people look that way and they see 1,000 people going through those double doors,
and they're like,
no, fuck that.
Yeah, especially if the show is really packed. You get those people that are claustrophobic, and then you're like, a smaller room? Like, absolutely not. Yeah,
smaller room with more it's more congested back there, and
no, it's not.
It's fun chaos though.
It is fun chaos. That's for sure. Man, I missed that show. We just had my buddy Dominic Bodie from Big Wheel Reptiles, and then Adam G from Komodo, and Mike Kostakos came to visit Nerd, and I usually would split a table at White Plains with Dom, and I haven't seen him in 2 years or something like that, because there just hasn't really been a show. And I'm like, dude, it feels like I haven't seen you in forever, and then usually at least I see you 4 or 5 times a year. I miss that show for sure.
Yeah, it's a bummer. And then even the Saratoga show. I mean, the Saratoga, I'm 45 minutes from it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a nice big open spot. I enjoy it. Last time I didn't really do well because I think I didn't do well because it was sponsored by the local radio channel, radio station.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
So when you're talking about it was a petting zoo, it was like petting zoo times 20. It was like, oh, that's really nice. Can I hold that? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, what reptiles do you have? And they're like, oh no, I don't have any reptiles. We won the free tickets off the show. Or
yeah.
so I think I sold 2 animals and that was a little bit of a bummer.
Yep.
But same time I met a lot of really cool people, and that's
Yeah.
really the shows I don't think the shows really are about the money. I think it's more about the if people that watch my channels and watch my videos, they can meet me in person and see that I'm the same fucking person on my videos as I am in person,
Right. Yeah, no, it's you want to know what's interesting too is like that's very much true for the shows up here in the Northeast, and I think a lot of that is just because like we don't have a lot of shows that happen, from basically like I'll say from basically New York up into New England. We don't have very many shows. You
No.
got White Plains, you got Long Island, you got the New Hampshire show, you got the Mass show, and then like you get a couple of other random shows that kind of spatter through New York. There's a new show that's going to start this October in Rhode Island, which I'm actually pretty excited about. But that's really kind of it. So a lot of it really is like it's that chance to network. It's that chance for us to come face to face with the people that we talk with online, from people who have been like, oh yeah, I saw you had some available stuff, posted on Morph Market or whatever, and I want to see it in person. You get those opportunities then and there. Down south is a totally different scene.
Every
Like
month.
the southeast, man, it's like I have a buddy of mine in South Carolina that basically every other weekend he's doing a show, like for the entire year, and I mean, granted, he's driving sometimes long distances for these shows, but that's all he does. Like that's how he makes his money, is doing the shows.
It's great.
He doesn't have a storefront, he's just kind of doing his own thing. So so he's going around to all these shows just making his money, so for him, he's like, yeah, I'm based in South Carolina, but I'll drive down to, Daytona Beach, Florida. I'll drive all the way, west to Tennessee and, everywhere in between kind of deal. And I'm like, damn, every other week doing a reptile show, like that's crazy,
Yeah.
But it's you kind of get a little bit of that same, like, you meet your customers, you meet the people who are following you, but I feel like down there it also provides another layer of validity to kind of working with reptiles full time, because if you're willing to, put the miles on your car,
Yeah.
you can hit a show every other freaking weekend,
Yeah. Cost of living is also cheaper. So
yeah,
technically it's easier to live off your reptile company.
yeah, exactly.
That's why I want to go to Virginia.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to leave.
Yeah. Was that Nathaniel says, I'm not social enough to try and vend. Man, sometimes you don't have to be social, man. You can let the animals speak for you, dude. Like if you produce quality stuff, like a lot of times the animals will speak for you. And I mean, it certainly helps to be a little bit of a people person, but naturally, and people usually never believe me when I say this, but naturally I tend to be more introverted. The only time I'm truly an extrovert is when I'm talking about reptiles or I'm, on stage at a gig,
Yeah.
But sometimes even when teaching, I mean, like you're talking about kids, so it doesn't necessarily really matter, but sometimes I have days when I have to teach and I'm just like, man, I just really like to just not talk and just play my horn, for an hour or whatever, but you can't do that. So, you have to kind of force yourself to do it. But, I'm a people person after a couple drinks. There you go. Some liquid courage will freaking get you going right away.
Plenty of that at shows. I mean, there's plenty of people at shows that are dry, no personality, I mean, and they do fine, I
Yeah,
mean, they're
exactly.
just business. They talk business. They know what they got,
Yeah.
and they're knowledgeable with the product that they're trying to sell,
Hmm.
and that's all really what it takes.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. Yeah,
Plus
it's
the madness, stress, and I mean,
yeah. Yeah, I mean,
it's tough.
it's I'm gonna reference Lucas again, who I mentioned earlier. Um, 16 and absolutely, crushing it for what he's doing, for his first species he's ever breeding is green tree pythons, and he absolutely crushed it. He's at the he's rounding the last hurdle, which is hatching babies, and then he's just got to get them to eat, and then he's absolutely crushing it, but he's made it this far. um but he and I talk, I'll say, a handful of times a week. And recently he was like, man, I got to step back from social media. Like, I just see all this negativity and whatever. And he's grown up in the industry. His dad's been in the industry ever since he was a child, so, or I should say even more of a child, like a toddler.
Young
um
child.
Younger child. But he's like, man, like, I'm trying to get myself out there a little bit more, and the more I get myself out there, the more I just see a lot of the the bullshit. And he's like, I don't really want to deal with it. And
Yeah,
I told him, I was like, I said, I agree 100%. I totally understand, because there's some days where I'm just like, man, I've told people a bunch of times that if I wasn't an artist, I probably wouldn't have any social media, period. But unfortunately, we live in a digital age, and if you want to promote your stuff, you got to be doing
you
something
got to do it.
digital. You
Yeah,
just, it's a necessary evil. But I told him, I was like, you can have, like a Facebook or an Instagram that's just your own personal shit. You don't have to post your animals or 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 whatever. You can just post a million selfies, of whatever, and be totally happy with that. I know a handful of people that, they do a couple shows, and everything else they do is word of mouth, and they're crushing it. They're making a living, still
yeah,
doing it. The social media game, really all it does is it just buys you more headaches. More often
yeah,
than not, I mean, you just get more people asking you what's the good first snake. Which, I mean, I personally, I don't mind. um but I certainly get that. Like, if you were to go through my Facebook and look at all the groups that I'm a part of, you'd see quite a lot. But if you were to look at the number of groups I actually post in, that number is right around zero. Like, we're not
yeah. I don't
even
post on
going
Facebook.
into the double digits. Like, I rarely post anything. And so yeah, I told him, I'm like, dude, you can post your stuff on Morph Market when it's available, and people message you for information, and that's it. You don't need social media to do jack shit. You really don't. um
It's a tool, but it's not a necessary tool.
exactly. And he's like, yeah, I guess I didn't really necessarily think about it that way. And I'm like, yeah, dude, I mean, I think a lot of the guys that I know that are either like really old school reptile keepers that have been doing it for 30 plus years, um a lot of them are like, they're hardly active on social media, because they
Yeah,
had like an entire life of no social media,
yeah,
so they're like, I can exist without social media fine. Like, I'll post a picture of me and my husband or wife, and and I'm good to go, and that's it.
yeah.
That's it. I'll update a status once every 5 months just to let the world know I'm still alive, and I'm just gonna keep it moving.
And and
you
post
know
my snakes on King Snake and Fauna,
yeah,
and
and just
not
keep
even
it
use
moving.
Morph Market. Yeah,
Yeah, and just keep it moving, and that's totally valid. And I tell people, because I've had this conversation a few times where, I tell them, like, it certainly makes the end goal of trying to sell animals, especially if you want to breed and sell reptiles for a living. It makes that job a little more challenging, just because you have to make sure that you always have stock available, and whatever, and you're not putting out content, so you can't necessarily monetize and generate extra revenue streams that way. But uh you just have to really be on top of your shit. With social media, you can finagle and stuff, and if you get your social media kind of cooking in a good spot, you can supplement some of your income, especially during the off season. If you're making a decent check from YouTube or whatever. We can't all be making bar check and Jay Brewer money, but sometimes you can make a decent check every month or so from YouTube if you're cooking right. um but that's not the only recipe, and that's, I think we need to not necessarily showcase that more, but I think we need to maybe let people know in general, like as wonderful as social media is, like to be able to connect, like to be able to connect with you and everybody else that's hanging out in the chat still and everything, like to connect with everybody. That's awesome. And
Yeah.
I love that 100%. But those people that are like, man, like I just don't want to deal with the BS and the nonsense. You don't have to. You don't. You
I
can be
just,
totally successful without it.
and it seems like it's the same people in the industry that have the drama. So when me personally, I see drama, I'm like, all right, unfollow. I
Yeah.
don't, like, I feel like we got enough negative shit going on in our world. If you're not putting out positive shit, I don't want to see it, and
Yep.
that's what makes the world go round. And I think it all breaks down to kind of like we were talking about earlier. Like, I got into hypo because I thought hypo was incredible. And
Hmm.
I hated hypo because I loved it and I hated it. I loved it because I open up that tub and that snake looks fucking incredible.
Yeah.
Then I pull out my camera and I take a picture and the fucking camera fixes the beauty on it because it
Yeah.
thinks that's what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
And it looks like shit in pictures. And
Yep.
they're like, why do you have so much hypo? What, like even when I got into like the double, because 5 years ago, now anyone that has a collection over 50 has at least one double recessive in their project, or or 100,
Yeah.
let's say. And people are like, why are you hypo clown, hypo clown? I'm like, listen, I saw a hypo clown. I fell in love with it. And now I'm going to do everything I can so that in 5 years, I'm going to have racks fucking filled with them.
Yeah.
But hypo is, nobody wants hypo no more. No one wants this. No one wants this. And I'm like, the whole goal of a breeder is you have to be motivated to clean the snake shit, to clean the tubs, to clean the
Hmm.
rats if you're breeding your rats. All that shit is a big circle. If you're not, if you're just buying snakes because of value and not because you're passionate about it, then good luck.
Yeah. You're
Because
missing the boat.
oh yeah,
Yeah. That's
yeah.
one
I
of the
mean,
things that I enjoy about working with the other species of stuff too. Like again, I love ball pythons because obviously that was like the foundation of my keeping of reptiles. But you know, the ball python market is kind of tainted with that element of like, oh, I'm doing this to make money, or like my focus is the dollar,
yeah,
in many cases. And I mean, and I'm not talking about the people who are running businesses that legitimately need to be looking at the financial aspect to be like, hey, I got overhead, I got bills that are associated with this, I need to make sure I pay. That's
yeah,
a different story, because you can kind of look at that through, you're looking at that through a different lens of like, okay, maybe that's not the smartest investment, and that's okay. But I'm talking about like those people that really are like, they're jumping into it and all they always talk about is the dollar, what that value is. You don't necessarily get that with a lot of the other species that are kept. Like we don't really get that with carpet pythons. You don't really get that with blood and short tail pythons. um I mean, people are just looking at the animal because they like it. They're pursuing the project because they like it. And if they sell some animals along the way, then that's freaking wonderful. I'll tell you this, it's a lot easier to sell ball pythons that than it is, jungle carpets. I hatch out jungle carpets and they look like, tan and black worms. So I've got to hold back jungle carpets for 6 months before I can even think about selling them. And that's when they just start to kind of turn a little bit of yellow, and
Yeah.
I have to then have pictures of the parents on hand that are good quality
Show.
pictures to be like, hey, this is what they're going to look like. I don't have to do that with ball pythons, fresh out of
No.
the egg to 800-900 grams. They're looking mint,
Yeah.
so
Then
it's like,
then it
cool,
goes to
man.
shit.
Yeah, you're like, I can do this. But carpet pythons and blood pythons, they hatch out, they're nowhere near what their true color is going to look like.
Oh yeah.
So I got to have all that content on hand to be able to show. I can remember years ago vending a white plains show when I was really heavy into the Erie and Jaya Jaguar project, and I had all these like 75% IJ Jags, so high percentage IJ Jags, which tend to be, in my opinion, some of the prettiest Jags. And I had them. They were probably going for anywhere from $300 to $450, depending on what they were looking like. And I had people that were coming up to my table like, "Why the fuck is that tan little worm, $400? When I got this other tan worm from this guy down the street or down the aisle for $150." And I'm like, well, your tan little worm is not going to look as neon yellow as my tan little worm in about 6 months.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, I can't guarantee that your breeder you purchased that from has pictures of the parents, but here's what here's what the dad to that animal looked like. And they're like, oh my God, that thing's glowing. And I'm like, yeah. And all I did was add more blood from this subspecies that's going to make it look even better.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, that's interesting. I'm like, yeah. So, just because you don't see it right now doesn't mean it's not going to grow into a spectacular, looking animal. But that's one of the things that we have to deal with when we deal with carpet pythons. There's very few carpets that ever hatch out where I've been like, that's a keeper, where I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, that thing looks great. Perfect example. The last carpet clutch I produced last year, I didn't get very, very many good eggs. It was kind of a junky clutch, but I produced a crazy looking zebra let right out of the egg. I was like, oh my God, that snake's going to be amazing. I was like, I need to hold it back. And it turned out it was a male. I already have a male zebra. Like I have its father. So I was like, I'll post it up for a kind of a ridiculous price. And if it sells, great. If not, then I'll hold it back and eventually it'll replace its father. And I ended up using it in a trade to get some other higher end jungles that I wanted. So it worked out in my favor. But like I see pictures of that snake now and I'm like, God damn, I should have kept that.
Seller's remorse.
But then in the same breath, the sibling to that was this really bizarre, like stripy looking weird jungle that, pattern wise looked cool, but color wise, like I wasn't seeing anything spectacular. And that person just posted a picture of it recently, and holy shit, that thing looks insane. If I kept it for another 6 months, I would have kept it 100%. And I even commented on his pictures, and I was like, man, that thing looks great. # regretting the sale. Like,
yeah,
I was like, God damn, but that element of working with different species is makes things a little bit more fulfilling. I love ball pythons and I think they're obviously amazing, but like I said, it's a lot easier to show off a bright yellow and contrasted black snake and get somebody to buy that than it is my tan worm that costs 3 times as much as somebody else's tan worm, because in 6 months it's going to look cool.
Yeah. That's what I go through with the New Caledonian geckos. The
yeah.
The Cresties, they give you an idea, but
Mm-hmm.
same thing. 6 months is when they pop.
Yeah.
Everybody wants Dalmatian. Well, Dalmatian may not show up till 4 months, and it may show up mild, and then all of a sudden this thing hits 15 grams, and holy shit, this went from 2 dots to super Dalmatian, over 100 spots.
Yeah.
And the gargoyles are even fucking worse because
those take some time.
You'll get a gargoyle out of the egg, and you'll be like, holy shit, this thing's perfect. And it's gonna be perfect. But that's like 1 out of 20. You're looking
Yeah,
at them, you're
exactly.
going, is that brown going to turn red? Is that
Yeah.
tan going to turn orange?
Yeah. Is this
And
shit gonna shine in 5 months? What's happening?
so I mean, even with the Gargs, I'm young on the Gargs. This will be my third year producing, and I've only sold 3. Because
Mhm.
I just sell as soon as I see the balls drop, I'm like, oh, you're for sale. You're not as good as the lineup of males I have.
Mhm.
But even once by next year, I should probably have about 25 females breeding, and it's gonna be the same thing. You have to sit on these animals because you just don't. I mean, it's one thing if it's a striped or reticulated, but if it's an orange blotch, you can have the same clutch. One of them will look with tiny spots, and then all of a sudden the other one, the spots are turning into stripes, like tiger
Yeah,
stripes, and
yeah,
you're
yeah,
like,
yeah.
"Holy fuck! How
Like,
are
what
these?"
the fuck? Yeah.
But yeah, so I understand that 100% that you would go through,
Yeah.
but variety's nice, man. I feel like it mixes it up. That's what
Yeah.
keeps you motivated. If you're doing the same exact thing over and over again, I know I'm bored.
Yeah.
Um, Different species, different days. We got our rodents on one day, we got snakes on other days, and the geckos every other day, and
Mhm.
so it's controlled chaos, but it works.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the biggest key is like you just got to dial it in, and if you can really dial it in and organize yourself, then you can really crush it. I mean, like that's when people ask me like how do I manage a collection of, closing in on 200 snakes on top of managing nerd, on top of being a musician, on top of, trying to have a
Teacher.
life, and teach and whatever. I'm like, it's all about scheduling, man. Like
Yeah.
I know this day is when I'm doing this day is when I'm doing that, et cetera, et cetera. And, of course, there's sometimes, unexpected, we work with live animals, so unexpected things happen, and, it is what it is. But, it's one of those things where like I know on Wednesdays another episode of Reptile Talk is going up. Whether we're recording it on that Wednesday or not is a variable, but for the most part we usually record on Wednesdays. I know Mondays I'm teaching all day. Tuesdays, every other Tuesday I teach a half a day. Sunday is my day to be in my snake room all day, from the morning to the night, just going through shit, cleaning shit, watering shit. I feed uh all my colubrids Tuesdays and Saturdays. Everything else just gets fed on Saturdays. Like
Now Monday
all these
nights,
like yeah, so it's
Monday
like
night live stream, you got that
yep,
too.
the Monday night live stream, exactly. So I mean like all of those little things kind of go into a schedule. For me, that was really easy because before taking the job at Nerd, uh I was doing music full time. I was teaching and gigging full time. And that was
The hustle.
absurd. Like that was absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I'm teaching music from, 7:30 in the morning, first period of the day, all the way through till 3:30. And then that's in the public schools. And then from 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock, I'm teaching private lessons, one-on-one private lessons. And then from 8 o'clock to, midnight or 1 or 2 in the morning, I'm recording something, or I'm going to a gig, or something like that. um you get up and you do the same thing all over again. So for
Yeah.
me, I used to literally on my phone have my schedule broken down every day down to 10 minutes.
Oh shit.
And if I like literally you can ask some of my friends, I would call them and they'd be like, hello, and I'd be like, you have 10 fucking minutes, what do you want to say to me? you know
What do you want?
and they're like, what? And I'm like, you have 9 minutes and 30 seconds, whatever you wanted to tell me from your voicemail, you better fucking tell me now, otherwise you're gonna have to wait till next week. you know and over the years, that's cost me some friendships and whatever, because people are like, you should be able to make time for me or whatever. And it's like, well, dude, I mean, while you're fucking working at fucking Walmart over there and you have your set consistent schedule, not saying that's a dig at anybody that's working a regular 9 to 5, but you're doing that. I'm over here trying to do, trying to pursue my passion as a career and as a way of life, and that demands a little bit more, you know.
Oh yeah.
Because between doing that, I also have to I have to be responding to emails. I have to answer phone calls that they're coming from my manager or my management team. I have to, answer emails about doing gigs or traveling. I'm confirming travel arrangement, like all these different things were like part of it. So now I don't have to do any of that kind of planning anymore,
Nice.
or at least not as intensely. I certainly have some days that are like, okay, I know exactly what's happening for the entire day. But when COVID kind of shut everything down, I lost essentially half of my life. I wasn't teaching, I wasn't gigging, I wasn't doing any of that stuff. I was just going to nerd and coming home and playing with my own snakes, and that was it. And now the world's starting to open up slowly but surely, thank God.
Yeah.
And so I'm starting to get back into that. I'm like going away to here for a week, I'm going here for a week, I'm going here for 3 days, I'm going here for a day, so I'm starting to kind of come back into that mindset. But organization is key. It really is. And in tandem with that, and this has been something that keeps coming up in a lot of streams and conversations that I've had with people is, and if anybody caught my Monday night live stream with Billy from Mutation Creation on Instagram, you heard me talk about it. Having a team, of people that you can rely on for whatever is
Huge.
such a major key in being successful. And that team could just be one person, depending on the scale of what you're trying to do. But it means the world. Like Billy was saying, he's getting into tarantulas and stuff now, and he's like, yeah, a lion's like really big on tarantulas, so if I'm not sure about something, I've got somebody right next to me that I can say, hey, is this right, or like I'm thinking about maybe trying this or whatever. For me, like I'm kind of in the same way. Like if I have a blood or short tail question, like I can just pop right over to Rob. Or same thing with Amazon tree bows. I can just go right over to Rob. If I have a retake question, like I had those issues with my retake this year getting egg bound, I'm bringing it right to Kev and being like, hey dude, I need your help. I know up to this amount. I don't know what
Yeah.
else to do. I need your help, and those kind of things, same with music. Like, hey man, I'm struggling, to figure this out on the horn. Like, what are some ideas you could throw my way? Like I've got those go-to people, that you establish a kind of connection with, not to say you just pick up and call them whenever you just need them for something, but to know you have somebody you can contact to get some information that is actually going to help you. That's a game changer. It's a freaking game changer, and will put you on the fast track to getting to where you want to be. Even if it's that person that, like, maybe you have a person on your team that's your say no person. When you call that person every time you're chomping on the bid on Morph Market trying to not buy this snake, and you're like, I just need you to tell me I don't need this other ball python. Like, please tell me I don't need this other ball python. Maybe you're the person that needs that other person on their team. That's okay. Or maybe you're married and that's your significant other, and they're like, don't you dare buy that fucking snake.
I'm that phone call for Gomez. He'll call me up and be like, well, I was looking at this snake and this snake, but then now I'm looking at this snake, and I'll be like, well, it's because I'm outside of it. So I'm like, well, why are you going to bother with this? Like, so I'll take the credit for that blackhead candy he got. Right. So he was talking about all these other snakes. He's like, yeah, the guy even has a blackhead candy male. And I'm like, and you don't want that snake? He's like, well, I got the leopard candy. I got this. And I'm like, well, blackhead is a climbing market. And now you got it already attached to a recessive that you have so much. And he's like, let me call you back. And then he fucking calls me back an hour later, and he's like, "Yeah, dude, I sealed the deal on that blackhead." He's like, I don't. He's like, I don't even know why I didn't even think of it. He's like, this is why I call you. You know, it's one of those things where you kind of like your brain is thinking of other stuff that you need those like go-to people that can, you know, look at the situation and see it at a different angle that your brain's not allowing you to see. You know,
right, dude, exactly that. That's Rob and I were just having that conversation the other day after we were done recording with Mike on Wednesday. You know, we were just hanging around in my snake room, and I'm like, you know, man, I'm contemplating maybe selling a couple of my bigger carpet pythons that I just need to maybe trim the fat on so I can make room for some of these other projects that I'm really trying to dial in on, you know. And he was like, oh, well, what are you thinking of selling? So I was telling him, and he's like, oh man, I don't know if I would sell that snake. And when I explained to him why I was thinking of selling it, he's like, oh, okay, I see what you're talking about, and that might be a good idea. And I'm like, no, like I'm like, you're not supposed to tell me that's a good idea.
Hey, why'd you agree with me?
Yeah, even though I want you to agree with me, you're not supposed to agree with me. You know.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, man, like I need some space. You know, like my reptile room is certainly not huge, you know, and I'm definitely like maxed out. I just had to I haven't really shown anybody yet, but on the next Monday night live stream, people will see I just did a little bit of rearranging in my snake room to make room for a couple more racks. And people will be like, how did he fit more racks in that tiny room? And you'll all see on Monday. So you know, but like those kind of things where I'm like, okay, I've got all these snakes that are breeding and all this space for babies, and I still need more space. So what are we gonna do? You know, and then you know, that's where I have to look at like, okay, well, what am I producing? You know, am I just doing? Why am I working on this project? And it's a it's a different conversation, as I'm sure you will know, when you're talking about, you know, working with an animal because you like it versus working with an animal because you like it, but no, also it's a smart investment to move towards a future goal, you know, of trying to either produce a certain mutation, or, you know, you're trying to line breed a project or whatever, and you're like, man, you know, I'm going to hold that back, and then maybe 5 months later you're like, do I really need that? Is it that significant, or can I work without it? You know, I need the space for something else that's a little bit more pressing. Yeah, so that's like where I'm at with the carpet stuff. Is like, I've got a lot of carpet pythons, and I'm like, man, you know, I know exactly what I want to do with this project, and I know exactly where I want to take it. Is there any spot where I can trim the fat? You know, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? There's probably a, you know, maybe, you know, 3 or 4 snakes I can do, you know, and move. And you know, of course, I start thinking that, and then what happens? I start thinking that Wednesday, and what happens today? A buddy of mine shows up and is like, "Hey man, I think I might be getting out of carpet pythons. Would you be interested in anything?" And I'm like, "Fuck you."
Bad timing.
Exactly. I'm like, just send me a list and I'll let you know.
Yeah, one of my buddies, he went like real heavy, and he invested a lot of money. He makes good money, and he bought a lot of high end snakes. And now they got another child coming, so they got their third child coming, and they're kind of like, all right, well, we're gonna keep 12 snakes. He's going for triple recessive, and you know, he's had his fun. He did his breeding for the last few years, and he's decided to part ways with it. But this fucking guy wants it like right away, and he wants the money now. And he's like, dude, wow. You know, I got a pastel albino, it's 1,200 grams. I got a pied mystic yellow belly, leopard female that's 800 grams. And you know, I need the money because my wife wants 2 lychees. And I'm like, ah, and the price is right. And of course, I did buy them. But, you know, I know how that is, man. And he
Yeah.
keeps doing this to me, and he knows he's a fucker because he's got a lot of snakes that he knows I want, and they're never for sale.
Mm.
It's always
Yeah,
it's always
that's
the other snakes.
yeah. Yep, that's legit exactly what I was just hit with. And it's like, oh yeah, well, and the worst part is like I've bought snakes from this person, so I know what he's got.
Yeah,
And because
no, it's right.
I'm like his stuff is good stuff. So I'm like, shit, don't tell me you're gonna be getting rid of some breeder animals. Don't do that. Which rack are they from? Are they from the left wall or the right wall? Don't tell me it's from the right wall. I like what's on the right wall. I don't want
Yeah.
I don't want to hear that, man. Don't tell
Now
me
I got to
that.
reevaluate my inventory.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, okay, how many snakes from the right wall are you gonna get rid of? Oh, okay, all of them. Oh, okay, that'd be a shame if they all had to come to my house. And then I start the process of like, well, man, I mean, I understand why you're trying to get rid of some stuff, but here, what if I spun it to you this way? What if you just gave me the snakes
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then I bred them for you and I send you some money? What about that option? Is that
Never
on
works
the
out,
table?
man. I tried that.
Well,
I
he
tried
might.
that.
I've done that with a few people, and it tends to work in negative. The outcomes tend to be negative. This is the one person that I have a very large amount of confidence in it actually working well, because I've known him for so long, and we've done a couple projects in the past where it is what it is. But I'm like, man, don't make me give you money. I don't have money. I have
Yeah.
space. I have space for snakes. I don't have money. Don't ask for my money.
That's what happened with the fucking gargoyles because I always
Yeah.
want to get into gargoyles.
Yeah.
And my buddy, Crazy Eddie, and I'm like, he's like, oh, I think I'm gonna get out of the gargoyles. I was like, all right, cool. He's like, what do you want for him? He's like, I don't know. He's like, best I could do was 250. And then he thought of it, and I was like, sold. I'll take him 250. It was like 1-4, beautiful guards.
Yeah.
And then he realized what he said. And he's like, dude, I gotta bail on you. I'm sorry. And he bailed on the deal, and I was like, you're a dick. Like, how'd you do that? And
That's
then
terrible.
he tries breeding them, and he has zero success with them. Because the
Ah,
gargoyle eggs are tricky, and I'll admit that. It's
yeah.
not like the crested eggs. Crested eggs, the substrate dry, spray, 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 spray. Okay, they're good.
Yeah. Yeah,
The
yeah, yeah.
gargoyle eggs, you spray them, they mold up and die. You can't
Yeah,
spray
it's
them.
no
You gotta,
good. Yeah.
and I'm like, dude, just give me the fucking gargoyles. Just give them to
Yeah.
me. Give them to me. I'll breed them.
Yeah.
I'll breed them. I'll give you your money for paying them off. I'll give you babies to sell. We'll call the even trade. He's like, no, I can't do that. I need the money now. I need the money now. So I ended up buying them for fucking more money, a lot more money than
Ah,
250. And the nicest one in the collection, he sold by itself for
sold.
500.
Of course.
Yeah, but that's how. But you know what? Fuck it. That's how I got in. And he was like, he was kind of like, because he has like 30 years of experience.
Mhm.
So he was like, oh, it's all right. I think he doubted me,
Mhm.
And then I had him for like 3 months, and I'm dropping fertile eggs. And he's like, oh, be careful with incubating this and that. Then they hatch, and he's like, you motherfucker. I was like, see, you should have fucking given me those things a year ago, because if you did, then, I could have given you
Yeah.
10 guards by this time.
Yeah, exactly. We'd be in a much different place.
But we're at a point where those 9 pastels may not make it. So that's why I'm kind of like at that. That's why I said I like the ones I think are het pied.
Mhm.
Because I don't think that they're yellow belly. I don't think they're bright enough, and I don't think they have enough high flushing on the belly for it to be yellow belly.
Mhm.
Um, I'm like, all right, fuck, I'm breeding the champagne to them to try to prove out whether they're het pied, and if I don't get a pied, or if I don't get a not even a pied, but a the fuck is the word called again? The white. It's because it's a ringer essentially.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
If I get the ringers, then I'm like, all right, I'm keeping you. But if I
Yeah.
don't get ringers, then it's like, all right, well, I guess you're gonna go. And I mean, it shouldn't be hard to sell 3,000-gram pastels that breed every year. I don't think I'll have an issue with them.
Yeah.
But it's still a point where like these holdbacks, they're all cute and little V18 tubs, but within a year, they need to move up. And I was like,
Yeah.
holy shit.
Yeah, when the CV70 space starts going away and you're like, oh.
Yeah. And that's another rack I need to do. And I'm using 41 Sterilites and I
Mhm.
fucking hate them.
Yeah.
I don't like with that the trench is just so aggressive. There's so much
Yeah.
wasted space. It goes out wide so much instead of it going straight down.
Yeah. No,
But
I know. I have a 10 stack 41 quart rack, and I really just I use that for my males because they're a
yeah,
little smaller, so it's no big deal.
but the 70 series, you're talking with shipping, you're talking $24 a fucking tub.
I
And
know.
I need 24 of them. So
Yep.
$500 in tubs. And that's without, that may not even be shipped depending on which company you use.
That's true. Yeah, it is.
But
It is crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy thing. You spend how much money on fucking plastic tubs? And I don't want to talk about it.
and I'm new to the snake tubs.
Oh yeah.
I've been a sterilizer for fucking 5
Mm,
years. The
yeah.
only reason why I switched to tubs
Mm,
was because of COVID. I think Starlight's made in Mexico.
mm.
So they're not being made. They weren't being made. That's why whenever you go to Walmart or Target, they
Yeah,
don't
they're
have any
running out.
Starlight tubs.
Yeah.
It's always empty. So I designed a 13 high 28 quart Starlight tub rack,
Mm,
and everything was all designed. I cut the wood, I chopped it down, and I was like, I chopped because I have them cut it into 23 inches
yeah.
so that I can load it in my truck and it's easier to load into the house because it's so fucking heavy.
Right.
And then right next to Lowe's is Target. There's no tubs. Now I'm going on the website and I'm like asking the manager, and they're like, no, we haven't gotten Starlight tubs in 3 months.
Yeah.
So the closest tub that would fit a 23 deep was the VE tubs,
Mm-hmm.
and it's free shipping, and I got them in a week. So I
Yeah.
said, fuck it. I ordered it. I built that rack, and instead of it being, 13 high, now it's 16 high. And the floor space of the VE23 is the same floor space of a 28 quart Starlight.
Mm-hmm.
And fuck, now I'm sold. So since then I
Yeah.
built two more VE racks and two of the V18 racks, and now I'm looking at these 41s like I fucking hate these tubs, but like one more year. One
Yeah.
more year of the bullshit, because it turns to a point where the Starlights, you lose so much space. These actual snake
Yeah.
tubs, you can fit more animals in a smaller space. And I mean, I don't post I don't post the snake facility because people will be like, "Holy shit!" But I'll send you a video. You'll be like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah.
I call it controlled chaos.
Controlled chaos. Oh yeah.
But I breed 12 different species of isopods, 8
Oh
species of
geez.
roaches. I have a bunch of tarantulas. I have a couple scorpions. Morning geckos, whether it's a high quality Hawaiian, low quality Hawaiian,
Mm-hmm.
regular common, tokays, cresties,
Mm-hmm.
gargoyles, lychees. Um, I don't know if I'm missing. And then I have fish tanks too, and oxalotls,
Oh
rabbits, rats,
jeez.
African soffers, mice.
Damn.
Yeah. So it's I'm putting in that work so that it's gonna come.
Oh
I've
yeah,
been
for sure.
I've been like a slow train, just chugging through for the last 6 years. And I know that all this good stuff I put out there would eventually come back, and I look forward to when that comes, and I'll just keep on doing what I do.
That's it, man.
But it's getting a little late. I know it's almost me and you are on the same time zone
Yeah.
in New
Yeah, we're
Hampshire.
New Hampshire in the woods.
It's all I can think of. All I can think of is Scott from CV Exotics.
Yeah.
Because he has that like signature New Hampshire, you got any gargoyles? I love that. I love it when
Oh yeah,
someone New
yeah,
Hampshire
yeah.
gargoyles.
Gargoyles? You got them gargoyles, guy?
Yeah, I need to. I look forward. Hopefully I meet you, and we got to talk. Maybe we'll plan a trip because I think
Yeah, dude.
you know my son, my middle son. It's wild. He's really bloomed into such an incredible dude. I'm wearing a shirt for him, my raggedy autism shirt,
Mm,
but he has autism,
mhm.
and he has a passion for animals. And
I love it.
I think that him going to a place like that, his brain will really be stimulated, and
For
seeing
sure.
just the madness of just because he sees animals, he thinks they're big, but they're New York big.
Yeah, yeah,
They're
yeah,
not
yeah.
New England big,
Yeah,
like
that's true.
I tell
That's
him
true.
I want a monitor, and they have no idea. I
What
really
that
want a
is.
peach throat. I want a
Mhm.
peach throat, something decent size.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, he's like, that's cool. That's cool." But he has no idea. It's a fucking video. You have no idea how
Yeah.
large these fucking animals really are.
Yeah.
So it'll be great. It'll definitely be a good
Hell yeah.
time.
Most definitely, dude. Yeah, like I said,
But
if you figure it out, we'll make it happen for sure.
yeah, once I get some clutches on the ground, maybe sell some animals. What I may do is maybe I'll try to work it out if I don't know about this coming show, but if I could work it out to come up a day before.
Mhm.
So, because the show's Sunday, if I could come up Friday and then try to hang out on Saturday, if that's possible.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, and I mean we're
Uh,
only a half an hour from the show, so I mean, yeah, it's not that bad at all.
yeah, and I was very jealous because when when I saw Kevin Johnson,
Yep.
and Kevin Johnson was like, "All right, man, great meeting you. Going to Nerd." I'm like, man,
Uh
I want to leave and go to Nerd. And then
uh
he said that, and then it was like everybody was gone. I forgot her first name. Her last name is Biron. She's in a lot of video. She's in a lot of pictures holding reptiles over there. The really nice lady, blonde hair,
Tyra. Tara,
Tyra,
sorry, Tara. Tara.
Tara Biron. Um, it was like after Kevin said that, I could see like that Kevin Johnson. All of a sudden, Kevin was gone. She was ready to go. You could tell everybody was like kind of like packing up and going to head
The
over to
the
Nerd.
the
I was
Kevin
like,
squad, man. The Kevin squad.
oh man. I mean, as fun as it was hanging out at the table, I
Yeah.
met a lot of crew. That show, that my favorite part about that show was this young girl. She was like, I think she's 17 years old. She's a senior in high school, already accepted to a college, and she wants a snake,
Mhm.
but she's not like a typical kid. She's like, well, let me move into the dorms. Let me plan everything out next year, and you know, get an apartment. And when I have an apartment and I'm capable of getting a snake, then I'll get one. And she hung out at my table for like 45 minutes holding a proven breeder, ball python male, and
Mhm.
loved it. And then her father was liking all my posts and commenting, and they're like, "Oh, you definitely have a customer in 2 years." And I'm like, "Awesome, look forward to it," because
Yeah,
that's what it's all about is spreading the passion, spreading the what you enjoy about it.
for sure.
But
100%, man.
thank you so much, man.
Oh yeah,
That was
dude.
a fast almost 4 hours.
Yeah, man.
But we will definitely catch up. And
Yes, sir.
now you got me looking forward for Monday, because Monday is funny because I finish my rodent cleaning. I clean rodents Monday. And
Mhm.
then while I'm cleaning rodents, I have a TV in the rodent room watching Billy. And then after Billy, then you go on. So then
Yeah.
it's like I finish Billy's and I go on to yours. Monday's a very eventful day, even though I hate Mondays because Mondays
Yeah.
I have to clean 72 rodent tubs. But
Oof.
yeah, it sucks. But saves a lot of money.
It's true. It's true. It's part of the grind.
But definitely a pleasure, man. Thank you so much for joining in.
Yeah, most definitely. Thank you for having me, man.
Definitely. I got to get into these podcasts so I can start listening to yours because I'm not gonna lie, I'm a visual guy. I have the podcast. Sal tried getting me on the podcast. He even gave me the app, and I don't know. I'm a play it on the TV and fucking listen while I'm doing reptile shit.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we recently started doing it live on video. So, um if you go to my YouTube channel, Brassman Reptiles, there's a whole playlist. I think of like the last 10 episodes or something.
Oh shit!
Live on video. Yeah. So the first 40 something episodes are audio only, but then we transitioned over to doing them live. Yeah, so that we got video with Mike Curtin this week. We had Justin Kabelka on the other week, and a few other people. So yeah, you can check it out on video too.
I pressed brass M and then you came up top person, top count. Oh yeah, good shit, man. Well, I look forward to talking to you in the future.
Yes, sir.
And you have a great night.
You too.
Brass Man Reptiles, Instagram, YouTube. You do Facebook too? With
do Facebook. Yep.
I slack on Facebook. They're linked. That's my limit.
There you go.
All right, brother. You have a great night. And once again, thank you, man. I appreciate it so much.
My pleasure, man. Take care.
Later, dude. That was awesome. That was really awesome. I really enjoyed that. And if you do not follow him, you need to. Brass Man Reptiles. I am closing shop. It's been fun. We'll have a show next week, and then I will do a live stream in Arlington, Texas. So you all have a great night. Peace out. Thanks for watching.